Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me tonight are Jay Hughesman and Chris Crichton. Welcome to the show, guys. All right. We're going to do the aggression playoffs and change Hot Topic Sound Off episode 2522. And for your guys' reference, I have put into the chat, private chat, our Hot Topic list, so we can refer to that. But let's start off with your thoughts about the racing at Iowa Speedway for the ARCA East race, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series race. So, Jay, let's start with you.
Well, I thought we saw some, I'm going to use the word good racing throughout the weekend. Again, it was an edge of your seat, side-by-side bumper rubbing again. Iowa gets labeled. Right. Well, and that's what people got to understand. It is listed as a short track because it's under a mile. However, it's kind of a high-speed short track and kind of a short not super speedway, but mid.
The fastest track on the planet.
Yeah, there you go. I think that maybe one misconception as far as that when you call it a short track, that fans are looking for the Martinsville, Bristol type bumping and banging, and you're not going to get that at Iowa. And what we saw creates havoc more so than it would at a short track like Bristol or Martinsville. So I think that might just be a little bit of a misconception when somebody thinks short track. But I did think it was, like I said, good racing. I was thrilled with some of the winners. Some of not necessarily thrilled, but they earned it, so can't complain. I was really pulling for Brad Keselowski to pull off an upset and get into the playoffs as a Brad.
Fingers crossed. Uh-oh, we lost Jay. Let me see.
He's not behind you. Oh.
No. I have to turn off my air filter because my air filter, I think, interferes sometimes.
Oh.
Are you still there, Jay? Nope, he's frozen. Why don't you tell us your thoughts? Because Jay might have to go off and come back. Chris?
Well,
welcome.
I wasn't ready. I just put a piece of gum in my mouth.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah, a good piece of gum is fresh. So, yeah, I didn't get to watch the ARCA race. We raced Saturday night. So the Xfinity race that I watched was at mid hours of the early Sunday morning. I seen a lot of action come out of the Xfinity Series race and a lot of side-by-side action, a lot of passing. And it had me pretty excited about Sunday. And I didn't leave completely disappointed for Sunday. When you look at the overall race, I think it had action in itself. The beginning of the race kind of didn't tell the tale of the end of the race. I think all those cautions there brought a little bit of, what's going to happen next type feeling. But the Xfinity race, I don't know, man. Sam Mayer, I know he was written off by Junior Motorsports, and really the thought and idea of Sam Mayer going to Cup hasn't really been talked about very much because he always seemed to just struggle at Junior Motorsports. He wasn't looked at as some of the other prospects, I think, that have come through there. It was kind of a negative context always about Sam, and it took him a while to get the car figured out, and it took a little bit longer for him to finally capture the win. But he showed tremendous skill set and was able to capitalize. I mean, he made a pass for the win. I think we'll have to reevaluate where Sam Mayer is. Maybe after another year of being in Xfinity, who knows? Some of these guys, it takes a little bit longer. But when you can go from one team that you're supposed to win at to the other team where it's kind of in question of whether or not they even have good enough equipment to win and pull one off like this. I think that shows that Sam's got a lot of talent up underneath him that maybe is taking a little bit longer to shine. You look at Sam Mayer's career and you look at Carson Hocevar, and Carson made it to Cup Series a lot quicker than Sam Mayer, and Sam is a pretty decent driver. Just shows how lucky Carson's been to be able to go up to the Cup Series as fast as he has been able to. And has ran into a lot of roadblocks, of course. He'll be a topic later tonight. But back to Sam Mayer, I think we all should feel a little impressed with it. Of course, it was Ford's first win in the Xfinity Series all year long.
Yes.
It's kind of, one of those situations. They don't have very many teams anyway that are sporting the blue oval on the front of their race cars. So I thought all in all, the Xfinity Series over the last several years has been the best racing period. And I'm not knocking the next gen, but I will knock the next gen because Michael's not on here. Jay's not on here, so he doesn't have to throw a hissy fit over what I have to say about it. I think that all in all, we've once again seen the problems of this next gen car in the Cup Series. We saw a lot of dirty air. We saw cars having a hard time getting around each other. We had tires that didn't wear out. I mean, anybody that can go. I mean, look at what William Byron was able to win. I think he went, 140 laps without going to pit? Like, that's your tires should have wore out. Like, it shouldn't have even been. I know 50 of those laps was under caution. But the fact is these tires have no fall off. And so everybody's going the same speed all day long. There's no catching and being caught. We did have finally a pass for the lead, but Keselowski did it in a style that, I guess is the only way you can really get around somebody right now. You got to go up and kind of get them loose and take them to the bottom. That's a typical move that I think we've seen in NASCAR for a long time, but, you got to be able to catch them to be able to move the air, to be able to get them out of the way. I think they're learning how to adapt to this car, and they're using certain strategies to their benefit. But all in all, William Byron able to win on fuel strategy, no tire wear off. We're going around and around in circles every week with the same problems and the same issues. And I know the guy sitting next to me, he doesn't want to hear any of that because he believes fuel strategies is racing, and it's great racing. And I'll let Jay speak for himself on that. I don't want to get him too mad at me as we start this, but William Byron won, right? My surprise is this is only William Byron's second win. And when you start looking at the list of winners, you realize that this year's kind of been, we wouldn't necessarily say the big three. I think that we've used that terminology a lot in the past. But when you look at the win column, you see a big three up there. You see that these guys with 3 wins, and I think Denny has 4 wins now. Is that right? Is that correct? Denny's sitting with 4?
Yes, he has 4.
And then you got 2 other guys with 3 wins. So I think all in all, as for the race, we did get action. We did get a little bit better product than we had the week before. Not every race can be side by side, door to door. Not every race can have a 22 thousandths of a second victory, but there's obviously issues that still 4 years later down the road have not been fixed. Iowa is considered a short track. So basically we got what short track racing's brought us for the last 4 years since we've brought this new car in. Congratulations to William Byron. It took a great crew. It took fuel mileage strategy. It took a lot to get him in victory lane, which is really kind of strange. Like, this should have been like a Bowman win or, maybe a Briscoe win. But instead, we've kind of forgotten about old Willie B over the last, 6 months. And here we are coming about playoff time. And he's right where he wants to be. So I'll pass it over to Jay, see what he's got to say.
We'll let you finish up, Jay.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. And don't know if they do maintenance on my internet this time of night or something, because that's not the first time that's happened, but lost everything. You're
Yeah,
on mute.
actually, that's what
You're good.
during slower hours is when they actually do repairs and stuff on lines. I know somebody that's in the business, and they say that between the hours of like 9 and 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is when they typically work on type of internet issues and stuff. So yeah, who
Yeah.
knows? That's cool.
Yeah, I turned and looked, and I had no lights whatsoever on my router. I was like, oh, this is going to be a minute. But one of the things, and I say I don't know exactly where I dropped off, but I was kind of on that of William Byron, like Chris said, of they needed it. I mean, they've been solid. Obviously, they had been leading the points from like race 3 onward until Chase Elliott took it a couple of weeks ago, and now he's back. So you're right. I mean, he is a top contender. We just don't see him winning every other week or winning multiple races like we've seen Danny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell, SVG on the road courses. So a little bit surprising when it comes to that. The last couple of weeks they've been doing the fuel mileage. And I saw where All Sports All Day said that fuel strategy is absolutely awesome when it actually plays out. Trust me, that team is well aware of that, as they've tried it for a couple of weeks and they've been on the wrong end of it. But that goes back to of having that win in the bank. They can take that chance, and
Oh no.
No
Almost hit the same
way.
spot.
He is gone. At least there he is.
There he is. Okay. You froze up for a minute there, Jay.
oh,
But
wow.
you're good now.
Yeah.
All right.
You're back.
So, things like that. And again, I think that just adds to no different than any other sport. It's a different strategy, and that's what they're able to play right now. Teams that have multiple wins, all they're looking to do is rack up the playoff points because they know they're guaranteed locked in. So yeah, they're going to take different shots at stage wins and whatnot that maybe that other teams can't because they're trying to point their way in. So, it'll be interesting to see over these final 3, and then obviously the playoffs changes everything because there it's pretty much you got to go.
Yep, that's true. I happened to watch the ARCA Menard Series race on Friday night as well. Brendan Queen won that race, and I was happy for him because the week before he had some mechanical issues that he pretty much dominated the first half of the race, had some mechanical issues and could not compete against Brent Cruz in the second half of the race. And so Brent Cruz ended up winning that race. But it came down to those 2 drivers again in the ARCA East race. And this time it was Brendan Queen. And Brent Cruz actually passed him for the lead. But then Brendan Queen said he was not going to let this one get by him. He was going to win this. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. All Sports All Day, thank you for all your comments. Watching Cruz and Queen is absolute cinema. It was a lot of fun to watch that and to watch Brendan Queen come back and get back into the lead. I enjoyed that race. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Then the Xfinity Series race, I didn't actually get to watch that race, so I can't really say a whole lot about it. But it seemed like it was kind of exciting. Sam Mayer is showing his strength at that particular track because he won last year with a different team and a different manufacturer. He was with Junior Motorsports last year when he won at that track in a Chevy. And this year he brought Ford their first win of the season, as well as Haas Factory Team their first win as an organization. So I thought that was a lot of fun to watch and see happen because it wasn't something that came easy for him. He had to, battle with a few of the drivers throughout the day, and battle is not really the word I want to use. He had to compete against some good drivers. in that race. Ross Chastain was in that race. I know we'll talk about a couple of those drivers a little bit later, but yeah, I enjoyed watching the race. Or I did not watch the race, but I enjoyed hearing about it and seeing what was going on. All Sports All Day says very similar race to Pocono, leaders saving like crazy, yet somehow running half throttle and still faster than the guys in dirty air. And I'll tell you, that's something. In fact, I talked to one of the short track late model drivers a while back, Jace Hale. We did an interview with him, and I was telling him sometimes you got to go slower to go faster. And he says, that's exactly what my dad said. And it's true. I think it was Jace Hale. It was either Jace Hale or Keneally, Joey Keneally. I can't remember now, but that's an old adage. Sometimes you do have to go slower in order to go faster because your car is more stable and you're able to actually accomplish more when you slow things down a little bit. But there were a couple things, and as far as the Cup Series race, I thought it was a good race. I'm kind of, I like the strategy races. I like watching the strategies play out. I almost felt, though, that in this particular case, they made more out of it than maybe what it was. I'm not 100% sure. But William Byron got 144 laps when the fuel window was 100 laps. So what helped him was the pit. There were a lot of cautions that came out in the third stage. We didn't see those cautions in the first stage or the second stage, but in the third stage, there were quite a few cautions. That helped him save fuel. And then the pit crew or crew chief kept telling him, fall back, because he knew that they were really overshot the window already. But by 44 laps, that's a lot. So he was a master at saving that fuel. And I thought that was interesting to watch that play out. William Byron, his last win was at the Daytona 500. He went through a slump during the second half of the season, or through the rest of the season, I guess you could say. And he was there some of the times, but there were a lot of times when he just didn't seem to have what he needed to compete. I don't know if Hendrick was trying to try different things, knowing that he already had the win. And, maybe they could try a few little things on the track, and maybe that's what was happening. But it's getting to that stage where a second win gives him more of a guarantee. Plus, he lost a lot of points. He had a big advantage, and that advantage pretty much evaporated away with some of the races that he had there. Let's see. All Sports All Day said I'd give it 6 out of 10. The wave of cautions hurt it pretty bad. Other than that, the only real flaw was dirty air in a solid race. I will say there was passing. And one thing that I do like about Iowa Speedway is, dissimilar to most short tracks that we go to, you can race 3 wide at that track. And it is a fast little track. It's not the bumping and grinding kind of track that you see that's typical of short tracks. This is a fast track. They can pass. We watched Ryan Blaney pass through the field. Bubba Wallace was 2 laps down. What started at the tail end, 32 cars, I think it was, and raced his way up to finish 6th in this race. So passing is possible. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Not everybody's figured out the passing yet with this next gen car. Some drivers have. Ryan Blaney is one of those drivers, and he knows how to pass with this next gen car better than any other driver. And I think I've heard different people give stats on that, and it's not coming to me right now, but he's made more passes than anybody else, I think, for the entire season. And All Sports All Day is saying, yeah, definitely more passing than Indianapolis. I was alluding passing in the top 5, which there wasn't a whole lot, but there was some passing for the lead. And it was kind of fun. I remember watching Jeff Burton, and this wasn't in a this wasn't in a next gen car. This is going back a ways. Jeff Burton and Matt Kenseth going back and forth and back and forth. And you know, and they were racing side by side. Matt Kenseth would be up front for a little bit, and then Jeff Burton, you know, they'd do a crossover moves, and they'd be back and forth. And that's what we were seeing between Keselowski, and who was leading in the beginning? It was Keselowski and Briscoe that went
Chase
back
Briscoe,
and forth
yep.
like that at the beginning. And they would pass each other, and then the other one would pass them back. So I think there was passing in the top 5, though. At least I saw some passing at the top 5 throughout the race. And there was some passing, I know you're saying, but there wasn't a whole lot. And maybe not, but maybe, you know, the other drivers just haven't figured this out. And I really think that's a lot of it, because Ryan Blaney has done it. We saw Bubba Wallace do it, coming from the back of the field to the front of the field. So passing is possible with this next gen car. And we saw that at Iowa Speedway. So the fuel strategy, I'm okay with it. I know not everybody is, but I'm okay with it. I like the strategy plays. We had so many strategies playing out. It was a little difficult to keep up with all the different strategy plays that were going on. And it came down to a matter of which strategy was going to be on top at the end of this race. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the racing for the Cup Series, as well as what I heard about the Xfinity Series. I did not watch that race, but I did watch the ARCA East race as well. So, Chris, we're back to you for any follow-ups.
Yeah. So I just want to hit on a couple of drivers here. First of all, William Byron led for 141 laps. He also stretched out, took the lead back in this championship bid, regular season championship bid. He now leads by 18 points. The others to note: Chase Briscoe, his second place finish is three out of four races, right? This guy's finished second, so probably one of the hottest drivers right now in the Cup Series. And Brad Keselowski, what a heck of a run. Started out 12, I think first 12 races of the year, no top 10s. I think over the last 11 races, he has 7 top 10 finishes now. He looked like a contender. He looked like that he had just a solid car, just as much of a solid car underneath him as what we've seen out of Buescher and Priest all year long. It's kind of been that Keselowski was the tag along, the not so right RFK car as of late. But one other note, Bubba Wallace, I complained earlier about the tires not falling off, but Bubba had actually gone to pit and had fresher tires than the rest of the field, and that allowed him to go, I think, from I don't know, was it 17th or something? Let's see. He finished 6th, so 7 spots. So I guess he come back 13th or 14th or something like that. But those are big strides by Chase Briscoe. Some of the names that I just mentioned there really did not start the season off very good. Chase Briscoe, I think we could have thrown the towel in on him already. What a disastrous move that was to let Martin Truex Jr. retire and bring in Chase Briscoe. And the question was whether or not Smalls is the right guy to be on top of the pit box. Well, here we are mid-season, and these two are thriving together. And Briscoe's gonna definitely be in the win column. It could have been All Sports All Day, 27-6, but I'm not sure there at the end. But anyway, let me stay focused here. With Briscoe, you know, if you're going to take a guy that potentially could make a late run in the playoffs, as well as we've seen him run here as of late, he would definitely be one that I would go ahead and put my bid in on the championship. And William Byron, of course, the sleeping giant comes awake. We can say that this is, he's had two other potential fails, I think, earlier in the year with some fuel mileage strategies that didn't exactly work out for him. Outside of that and the individual drivers' performances, I guess, Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher is one to watch right now. Buescher had a pretty bad run. That puts Ryan Preece like knocking on the door, 23 points. The sad thing to all of this is we have two RFK cars at 16th and 17th. So what that says is if we go into Watkins Glen and we have a first-time winner of the season, then both of those RFK cars are now sitting on the outside. It's exciting to see Keselowski where he is because he's definitely challenging for wins. And may I remind y'all, Watkins Glen is where Chris Buescher picked up a win last year, so he's the defending winner. But this is not kind of where you want to be with 3 races left to go at the end of the season, especially when you have wild card race at Daytona. Of course, Watkins Glen, where you have to have a certain skill set there to probably be in victory lane. The big question is coming up: is anybody going to be able to beat SVG? This isn't really the Watkins Glen is a lot trickier road course, I think, than what we have on the
more
schedule
technical.
mostly. It is a lot more technical, so we may not see him, but who knows? We could get another butt whooping from the Aussie. If we'll have to wait and see on that, but I'll pass the baton. Those were just some notables that I wanted to hit on that had a really good race. Kyle Larson, I guess, probably the guy that you would have to look at to be like, what's his deal here of late? It seems like maybe he bumped his head a little too hard in that crash in Indy. I don't know. He's just not been consistent. He's caused a lot of accidents. I don't know if it's pressure. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on Kyle Larson's head right now. Maybe my buddy Jay, maybe he can straighten me out on that. So what's up, Jay? What do you think?
And they even asked him that at Indianapolis of why his stats appeared to be downhill slide since the Indy race, and he said he really didn't have an answer. I know he was rather livid on the radio. And that had to do with the teammate, the most popular driver. If you're not going to give names, which he didn't, yeah. But that's one of those of I don't know. It certainly does seem like that, but there again, it depends on the perspective you take. Is Kyle Larson in a slump if he's only finishing 5th to 10th? Because we've seen him go win after win after win. So it's all relative. One thing I wanted to hit on is you were talking about passing, and I think on the broadcast they announced Bubba Wallace 20th to 14 spots in that last set of restarts. He may have come from 32nd or 27th, but that was like 2 restarts back. So, but there too, Ryan Blaney, they were talking about him. They may not have been showing him making those passes, and then fans want to say, oh, there wasn't any passing, but the announcers, the broadcasters were talking about it as they were showing William Byron and the battle up front. So and I know that's another topic we'll get into of broadcasting coverage. I think you got to take it all combined. They can't show everything and whatnot. So one thing I kind of had this thought of as they were talking again of, yes, there is a problem, and I'm not ignorant to that or saying there's not improvement to be made when it comes to passing. The question is they feel like they've exhausted everything they can do in the aero side. They're working with the tires in Goodyear. Drivers seem to say it's all about horsepower. I feel like that.
I don't think so either.
Okay. Of that some of these drivers, in order to get the horsepower they want, they're going to keep saying, hey, there's no passing. It's hard to pass, because that immediately riles fans up, and they bandwagon on whether they know anything or not. Just, oh, my driver said they can't pass. You got to give them more horsepower. So I think there's some campaigning by drivers to say, hey, this isn't working. Give us horsepower, because that is ultimately what they want. That's just my opinion. And Chris, if you're looking to piss me off or make me mad, guess what? You got a hard job ahead of you. I have my opinion. I will back up why I have it. You have yours, and you back up why you have it. There's nothing to get mad about. I mean, to me, if we want to talk about no passing, let's talk about Daytona and Talladega. There is no passing there. It's two lines just getting an inch ahead of somebody. That, to me, is not a pass. You have a different opinion on that, and that's fine. Same with, I know we're going to talk about the broadcast, so I'll save some of that for the broadcast discussion. Yeah.
Okay, All Sports All Day says, but why was Blaney stopped immediately after catching Brad and Chase after flying through the rest of the field? And he did say this car is hard to drive. I'm going to go back to Godfather Moody, and I have to agree with him. This is the premier sport of NASCAR. It's not supposed to be easy to pass. It's not, and he also brought up that when they were developing the next gen car, the drivers said, you need to make it harder on us to drive this car. They did say that. So, you give them what they want, and now they don't like it. So they made it harder, and now they don't like it. I still think that it's not supposed to be easy. This is the premier series of NASCAR. You're not supposed to cakewalk into a win. You're supposed to fight for it. You're supposed to work hard at it. You're supposed to learn, from the car that you're given and how to drive. If it was easy, we'd all be out there making millions of dollars and racing in those cars. It's not easy. It's supposed to be hard and a challenge for these drivers. And according to Godfather Moody, that's what they asked for, and now that's what they've got. Now are they campaigning for what they think will make it easier for them? I remember Harvick saying one time, drivers are selfish. They're going to whine and mope and complain and everything else until they get what they want, because they are selfish when they're on the track. And I think that's true. I think you have to be careful about listening to what the drivers are saying. Here's another thing that kind of came out today. If you talk to the people who are at the track about that race, they all come out saying, that was fantastic. I loved the racing. There was racing throughout the field, blah, blah, blah. They loved it. But when you're watching on TV at home, and Jay, you talked about this a little bit earlier, it's hard for the broadcasters to cover everything that's happening on the racetrack. So like you said, they're watching William Byron while they're talking about Ryan Blaney. You may have caught that. You may not have caught it. Jay and I have both said sometimes we're doing other things when we're watching the race. And so you don't catch everything that's being said. It's just different when you're watching it on TV versus when you're at the racetrack. And I know when I first got into NASCAR, people said all the time, watching on TV is nothing like being at the racetrack. And I have to agree with that. It's a lot different when you're at the racetrack. And the folks that are at the track are loving the racing. The people who are watching from home are hating it. And I try to, put all that together. And I try not to listen to what everybody else is saying. And I try to go with what I'm watching and what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling when I see the race. And, what the broadcasters are saying and what I'm looking at on the app and what I'm listening to on the radio and everything is a lot different. When you listen to the race on Sirius XM, it's an exciting race. Those guys make every race exciting. And they tell you everything that's going on the track. So I think it's it's a lot of different factors that are playing into what fans' perception of the race are. And I'm not disputing them. I know it's hard to win. But again, I don't think it should be easy to win either. I think they should have to fight for their wins and work at it. That's why they get paid the big bucks. So that's just another point of view that I want to put in there. And Ryan Blaney did say it's tough. I can't use the words he said exactly because it's not coming to me right now. But he said it's a tough car to race in. But he has figured out how to pass through that field. And he was not able to get up there and pass for the win, but he has passed for the win in the past at other tracks. At this particular track, he couldn't. So I don't know if that was the tire situation or what it was, but I know that it's not supposed to be easy to win. That's just kind of the way Godfather Moody put it, and I have to agree with him. Are we done with this one? Are we ready to move on?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's, 10 lead changes among 6 drivers. I think how many cautions?
They were all in the third stage, I think.
Yeah, most of those were in the third stage, which is kind of crazy. It's like a switch got flipped. ODW used to say cautions breed cautions.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was
Yeah,
definitely
that's true.
relevant. Yeah. All right, I guess we're ready for the next topic.
Okay, so Chris, go for it.
Man, I don't even have it pulled up.
The NBC coverage.
Yeah, let's do the NBC coverage.
I know that was one of yours.
I don't think most of us have the same view as one commentator did about the negative reaction to Lee Diffie. All in all, I felt like NBC did a great job. I mean, it's not, they haven't done anything different than what I've seen in the past. I didn't think it was a terrible broadcast. Lee Diffie, I can understand. It's like the Mark Martin situation where, there's a certain group of fans that, want, I guess, an American commentator. And there's those of us that listen to all forms of racing. And, it's not the first time we've heard an Aussie or a British accent calling a race. It doesn't really bother me at all. I think that he did a great job. He even come up with a nickname for Carson Hocevar. Hurricane Hocevar, because it ain't much that he ain't tore up yet. I guess I don't know. I'd like to know the real reason for calling him Hurricane Hocevar. But all in all, I think NBC was, they've learned from the other two. The one thing that I guess I'd like to go back and really pay attention to was how many times we went to commercial with a live race and whether or not the side by side was there. I'm having a tough time recollecting it. So they must have done a really good job with that as well, because if not, I think I'd have been kind of upset that I wasn't getting the broadcast of the live racing. That has been my biggest issue for years. Stop going to a full commercial during green flag racing. I mean, there's no other sport where you walk away from it and, the guy comes up and hits a home run or they throw a touchdown or they make a bucket to tie the game. We're the only sport where they literally in the middle of competition shut the camera down and go to commercial. I mean, it's unreal. So I think they must have done a pretty good job at that, considering I don't have any complaints. All in all, it's, I guess we kind of held on to Dale Jr. and Stevie Letarte and all through the Amazon and then TNT. So this is a whole different group of guys. I think I heard Dale Jarrett's voice a couple of times. I heard Lee Diffie. I mean, look, I'm going to give them a shot. They've got the rest of the year to put it together. And look, this is the same guy, Lee Diffie. It's great that you said that all sports all day. Look, this is the same guy that I think got fired mid-season a few years ago because people just didn't like his announcing. They didn't like that he had an accent, and I just think that's that's just kind of silly. Like I would love to have Alan Bestwick in the booth. I'd love to see somebody like
Yeah.
that. But unfortunately, if he's not available, then you got to give the one thing about Lee Diffie is at least he's a true broadcaster, right? He went to school for broadcasting. He's a real broadcaster. He's not some honcho race car driver that gets paid $1.5 million to stand in the booth and tell us because he drove the car recently that he's got better knowledge at being a broadcaster. No knock at Dale Jr. or any of these other guys, Kevin Harvick, that do it. I see the strategy that networks put in, but as a broadcaster myself, I want to see the guys who've done the grit, who've worked their way up to that top to be able to have those opportunities. It's not just in NASCAR that they bring in these high dollar athletes to commentate to the fan. You're looking right now at probably the biggest flop ever, and that's Fox Sports signing Tom Brady. I mean, whoever thought Tom Brady was going to be a good broadcaster? I mean, he's definitely no Troy Aikman, that's for sure. So, but I guess that's a hit and miss. But I'm sure Lee Diffie doesn't cost $1.5 million or $2 million to broadcast up in the booth like some of these seasoned retired racers will demand. So, all in all, kudos to NBC. I think they did a great job. And what about you, Jay?
Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to get off mute, but there, and that one caught me off guard. All sports, all day. Sharon, I'll let you address that one when it comes around.
Yeah, that's okay.
And that's actually a lead into my point of Chris, who disappeared on me. Sounds different than me. I'm from the north. I'm from Minnesota. He's from down here. The excitement level, I know that was addressed on Sirius XM today, that how they react to, say, an accident. Some are with that full, oh wow, versus some are others calm. That's variety. And when you talk about a television audience of millions, and The Rock is sticking in my head, the millions and millions watching at home, you're not going to make everybody happy. We can't even make 10 people happy when it comes to something. So, that's why I tune most of that out. Somebody doesn't like, they go to the side-by-side commercial. And I'm trying not to, because I know that I'm going to bring this up when we get into another aspect. But I'm talking about when they go to commercial, and Chris, you referenced other sports. Other sports have built-in breaks, commercial breaks in the sport, if you will. NASCAR stays consistent. They don't stop the race when they go to commercial. Just taking football or basketball. Basketball apparently really does have what they call a TV timeout. I mean, that's one of their, it's not a timeout for the game to strategize. It is just a TV timeout. So yeah, racing doesn't have that. And again, you don't like that? Go to the track yourself. You won't ever get a commercial break when you're at the track. When it comes to that, again, you got to get up and go to the bathroom. You got to choose when you go to the bathroom to go get in line, or go get in line at the concession stand. Just because that when you choose to go, yeah, you miss the wreck, or you miss the pass for the lead, or whatever it is you missed. I appreciate the fact of, I think about back when you didn't have any kind of coverage. My dad talks about this and at that time it took 2 weeks to get the paper report on a race, and it was from 2 weeks prior, so appreciate the fact that we have any kind of coverage, whether you agree with how they do it, how they broadcast it, what they say, what they talk about. Take it away and then see what happens. Well, they didn't cover this race. Flow Racing didn't cover this race or this track. Well, you didn't like what they were doing when they were there anyway, so what does it matter? I get spun up on this of fans' reaction to that. And Chris, I'll talk about this. A couple of weeks ago, we had a great race, top three battling, and I said it. I said, I have no idea who finished fourth on back. I didn't talk about them at all because the race up front was that great. When the leader's out front by a half a straightaway, guess what? I'm barely going to mention him because I'm going to talk about second through fifth, or wherever the battle is. And there's some people are going to complain about that. Well, you didn't mention the guy that dominated and win. Yeah. And if I do, then you complain because I didn't talk about anything else. You can't win. So yeah, I just, that whole thing frustrates me. And y'all know that, but, now again, are there certain times, with 10 to go, or they know they're coming up on pit stops and somebody gonna run out of gas? Have there been times when I think they make a bad decision as far as going to commercial or talking about whatever else they're talking about? Yeah, it happens. I get it. But I don't think the internet needs to blow up over it and say they're the worst broadcast ever because of that one incident. And I'm going to go back on mute.
Okay, I'm going to go back to this one. I think
Imagine that.
Jeff Burton adds nothing to the broadcast. I'll tell you a little secret, All Sports All Day. I'm a Jeff Burton fan. So I followed him for a long time. And he does have some insights that he brings to the booth, but his personality is not what. It's okay. It's okay. He says, whoops, sorry. It's okay. I understand where people would feel that way about Jeff Burton. I do. He doesn't have the same personality. He doesn't have that personality that Jay was talking about. Oh, look what's going on, at the race. He doesn't get all excited. He's a very mild mannered, easygoing kind of guy for the most part. I've seen Jeff Burton when he's riled up too. And he was known as the mayor of NASCAR. And I remember as a media person, when I would go to the track, people would, sometimes people would ask, who's your favorite driver? Media people love to talk to Jeff Burton because he always gave them great insights that no other driver would give them. He is very intelligent. And I know he says, yes, I was alluding to personality, not intelligence. He goes, yeah, I figured I must have touched a nerve. You didn't hurt my feelings at all. Like I say, I understand where people are coming from. I missed Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth because I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. adds a lot to the broadcast. I wish he was still with NBC, but he's not. But I understand where you're coming from. I like Jeff Burton. I think he is a highly intelligent guy when it comes to racing. And I think he does add some insights. I think along with Steve Letarte, Steve Letarte adds a lot of great insight as well. And I had no problem with Lee Diffie either. I think Lee Diffie's accent does not bother me. I like Lee Diffie. And I'm a little bit like All Sports All Day. He said I feel a bit I feel it's just a bit off, but I feel indifferent about Lee. And I'm kind of the same way. I feel a little indifferent about it because I don't think he takes anything away from the broadcast. He doesn't, like you say, he's trained in broadcasting, so he knows what he's doing. I just didn't think there was any reason for complaint. My one thing, and this is really odd, I think, but they were showing, and I thought this was really great that they were showing. All Sports All Day says, I miss Rick Allen. I liked him a lot. Yeah, Rick Allen was good. I miss Alan Bestwick. I wish we could have him back, but it's not going to happen. But what I enjoyed is when they were showing the fuel gauges next to each of the drivers and where they were with their gas mileage. And I think I saw William Byron get all the way down to 3%. And then
took it off.
Pardon me?
Then they took it off because
then
they
took it off. And I'm like, where's the fuel gauges? I want to see where the fuel gauge is. They stopped showing it. And it wasn't a big deal, but I thought that was kind of odd that they would show it up to 3% and then poof, it just went away. And I wanted to see where they were at and where the others were at.
Just to jump in there real quick, that might be one of those, for whatever reason at that point they can't track anymore when it's that low, and that's where I think fans need to have that perspective of, and I heard that one right away this morning as one of the complaints about NBC's coverage. And again, I hadn't even noticed. I was aware it was up there. It wasn't what I was watching or studying or following necessarily. Okay, fans have pointed it out, and that's fine. I appreciate that. But like I said, there may be a reason. It may be that whatever technology they have, that at that point it can't track it no more. And I don't know that. I'm just, from an inside broadcast perspective, there probably is a reason. And fans don't know it. They just want to pile on. Hey, they took away what we wanted.
I started thinking, well, maybe they intentionally did that to make it more intriguing for us as fans. And All Sports All Day, that thought did cross my mind. I think NBC intentionally lowballed it to add viewer intrigue. And that is a possibility. I was wondering about that as well. Their job is to add that viewer intrigue. Their job is to make it more interesting for us. Sometimes it's easy to do, sometimes it's not so easy to do. But and he says no shot on NBC. I think they're the second best coverage behind Prime. Yeah, I would agree with you. I like NBC's coverage. Probably my least favorite is Fox, but I thought Prime did a fantastic job. And they went on to TNT and so on. But I thought the best was on Prime, and NBC, I agree, is probably about the second best. So I forgot where I was going with all of that. But yeah, I did get the feeling that there was some manufacturing to it to make it more intriguing for us as fans. And when I thought about it, I'm like, well, that's what they're supposed to do, is to make it more interesting for us. So, they did what they were supposed to do there. I really had no complaints about the coverage, though. I thought they did fine. We'll do follow-ups here because I'm kind of losing my train of thought.
Yeah, I mean, really, CW, I think, has been the
CW has been good too.
The coverage maker of the year, the most consistent, and from the way that it looks on screen to their, I guess it's their new age cameras that they're bringing to the track, to the commentating, it's been A1 all year long. I would put Prime too. I did go back and look at some, even Jeff Gluck said, oh no, they didn't just really go to commercial in the middle of that, did they? I'm not sure what they were actually talking about during that, because I don't remember that situation, but obviously it got a lot of attention on that side. So maybe I missed something, but they did go to a full screen commercial during that time. But and Jeff Burton, thank God we got Dale Jr. and Jeff Burton off the same airway, because they have such familiar voices and they're high pitched, and when they both got excited,
it was hard to tell.
It was like nails on a chalkboard. No offense, but look, they were good drafting partners, but they weren't good partners in the booth. Just based off of, yeah, you had to wear some earplugs every now and then. So, but I really don't have much more on the broadcasting side. This is who we have until the end. And yeah, Michael, there again, just as it's tough to compare. Why did you comment?
He's in the chat room with the.
I'm allowed to comment. I can have an opinion too. No, I was interacting there with All Sports All Day on the comment board. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There is different perimeters for streaming versus cup side, and you say that there's built-in commercials and stuff. I've watched Wimbledon. I've watched PGA golf. They typically bring a break in, and remember, that's why we have stage racing. But we also had Formula One, who pulled off, for the last 5 years in commercial-free racing. And I think once you get kind of spoiled on that, it's really hard to it's hard to justify. Like, there's so much, I guess, so many, when you have your stages, there's like 8 or 9 minutes of nothing but commercials. I think they come
Well,
back just for a minute, and then it's like 5 minutes worth of covers. They come back for a minute, and then
that's when John and I talk about what's going on.
hey, I promise you, like, that's sometimes where I'm behind on the race, and I just go ahead and fast forward through it. So, that's fine, whatever. But no, I don't really have much more to add to that.
Well,
Okay.
I got two things there and again, I'll save that for when we talk about the Penske deal. But why is it during the Super Bowl that's what everybody looks forward to is commercials, and yet now during a race, like I said, I understand there's that constant action. You mentioned it, the stage breaks. Part of that was a TV driven deal for that because our sport just doesn't have that. Again, like I said, it's your break to run to the refrigerator or bathroom or whatever else. Talk to your brother who's there with you, or whatever. And I look at it, like I said, I think about it when you're at the track yourself. You choose when you go. Are you mad at yourself because you went to the bathroom or the concession stand when this happened? I mean, that's your choice. When you talk about comparing it to Formula One, I've heard this comparing. If NASCAR is a race about millionaires, Formula One is about billionaires. If somebody wants to step in and make whatever broadcast commercial free, and I know they've done it where for segments in different sports and whatnot, that costs a lot of money. I mean, there again, I just don't think fans appreciate that or give that the respect. It costs money. Again, you want to pay $200 now per ticket instead of $50? Well, guess what? That's the kind of thing it would take. I mean, so be careful. Like Sharon, you were saying, even with the drivers, be careful what you ask for, because they can make it commercial free, but guess what? Then you're going to have to pay to watch it.
Yep, because that cost comes from somewhere. Okay, have we covered this one? Do we need to move on?
Sure.
Okay, it's your turn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to look and see. This one is one I put up, and again, I am not trying to bash on anybody, but I do feel maybe NASCAR missed a caution in the Xfinity series. And I will say this, second place Jesse Love gave an interview and actually said the same thing. Hey, I felt like there was oil there, but I understand if NASCAR missed it with the repave and darker pavement, that maybe you couldn't see it as well and didn't know it until somebody hit it. Unfortunately, it was Brandon Jones. But I also, on the aspect of how hard, and I want to say it was Matt DiBenedetto, if I'm wrong, please correct me, that hit the wall and caused it. That the broadcasters again said, hey, that was a hard hit, and it looks like it may be dropping. NASCAR generally errs on the side of safety and caution. I would have thought they would have thrown it, and unfortunately, it cost Brandon Jones. We saw Jesse Love slip a little bit, and so maybe they're like, oh, maybe it'll be okay. And then Brandon Jones came along and wasn't able to do the same. So, yeah, I felt like maybe they missed it. And again, I'm not attacking them by any means. It happens. But I think that is something they need to be more aware of. And again, and this goes back to, okay, I understand if you throw caution and fans don't think it should have, they're going to attack. I would rather take that heat than to have a team about their car or a driver getting hurt or whatever else from that side of it, with that. And I've done that one time. Talked about I've flagged only like 3 times in my life. There was one of them where, on the back stretch, the car hit the wall and came off, and I thought was going to be bad. So I threw a caution, which technically I'm supposed to wait for the voice in my ear from the race director. And they asked, and I said, hey, it looked like it was going to go badly. I'll take the heat. You want to fire me, but I felt like it should come out. because he came off and he was able to straighten the car out and run around and stay out of the way. So, yeah, that's a decision. I would much rather take the heat and criticism for that than on the flip side of it. So I just do feel, and I felt bad for Brandon Jones because I think he had a contending car. I don't know about race winning. Again, you never know how it play out, but he was up there in the top 3 mixing it up. I was happy Sam Marin Ford. Yeah, somebody's going to flip out. I was happy to see a Ford win, believe it or not, with that, but just wait until Dodge wins. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, All Sports All Day has to leave a little bit earlier tonight. So he's got to head out. He's in the Northeast, so it's a little bit later there than it is. We're in the Central Time Zone, All Sports All Day. So that's a little bit different. We got an hour extra, I guess you would say there. But anyway, with regard to, I forgot the topic real quick.
The caution, Brandon Jones getting into the oil.
Caution. Yeah, there's a couple of factors there. I think it was an easy one for NASCAR to miss. And like you said, maybe they thought that it was okay after Jesse Love got through there. But you got to remember there's a repave in the curves on that track too. That makes it even more difficult. Last year they were there, that repave was all black. You could definitely tell where the repave was and where the other pavement is. This year it was washed out a lot more. And although the drivers could definitely feel it, there's still little patches and stuff on that track that could make it hard to see an oil spill, an oil patch, if you will. So I can't 100% blame NASCAR for that. I do think, and I know that they do this every week, I do think that NASCAR will sit down and take a look at that situation and say, how can we avoid this for the future? I know that they do a review like that after every race. So I think that that's great. Well, we appreciate you too as well, All Sports All Day. Oh, that was Michael that said that. That was Jay. Yeah, we do appreciate your comments and feedback. I thought that was All Sports All Day. Anyway, I do think that NASCAR will sit down and review that, but I think there's reasons that they could have missed that. And NASCAR is run by human beings, and none of us are perfect. We're all going to miss one now and then, but they do have to learn from the mistakes that they make. And I think NASCAR does a good job of reviewing themselves and looking at what they can do better after every race. So I would anticipate that they would do that after this Xfinity Series race as well. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just don't know why we're at the should we or should we not, right? We always should, just out of safety reasons. This has come up too many times already. Just this year, we've had this discussion. NASCAR, make the decision, throw the flag. When you see somebody that's gotten into the wall, look, there was Ty Dillon or whatever.
But they got complaints from people for doing that too.
But I would much rather eye on the side of caution than I ever would putting somebody like Brandon Jones, who had a fast race car. You put him in the wall, like there was oil on the ground. There's, it just doesn't make any sense. You want to make sure that it's not just the driver that was in the wreck to make sure they're okay, but it's also to protect other drivers as well, so that they don't wind up in a wreck. A lot of times, like you said, you don't see the oil on the racetrack until somebody goes through it. That's when you find it. So I just it seems like if it's Kyle Larson, we're going to get a caution. If it's Matt Diambedetto, well, we're going to hold that caution. We're going to wait and see. And I know y'all are going to be like, wow, no, it's not really like that. But in a way, it does kind of feel that way. And, I think on Sunday, they definitely were siding on the air caution because, to be honest with you, a couple of those wrecks where there were caution flags, I was like, well, you didn't want to throw the flag yesterday for Benedetto. Why are we throwing it for Ty Dillon sliding through the infield? He didn't hit nobody. It didn't make much sense. So, I don't know. I would much rather just, like I said, side on the air of caution. And when you see a car go around, or definitely make contact with the wall, that car had a lot of damage. Why did NASCAR not want to throw the flag?
Yeah.
What was the reason? What was the hold? Other than we're going to make sure this driver is going a couple of laps down, I guess, and that doesn't make any sense. So it's just like quit judging what should and what should not proceed to a caution. If we've got a guy turned around, it's best for everybody on the racetrack that a caution comes out and we can reset this thing, and make sure that there's not oil on the track. I may not have that same opinion on a Saturday night at a dirt track. Flagmans that fall to the victimhood of racers that park on the racetrack, I think they should be given the black flag and sent off the racetrack. You don't park it up at the front stretch just because you want a caution. I'll have a lot of people disagree with me with that, and I catch a lot of hate for that. But I mean, it's the truth. You should keep the show flowing. And honestly, what I'm going to believe I'll see is in cup racing, we're going to see, and in the higher salons of NASCAR, we're going to start seeing this if they continue to not throw the flag. I even felt like maybe yesterday that we seen that. Was it with Ty Dillon, who seemed to have parked it there for a second? The moment the caution flag come out, we were, we seen a caution. I don't know. Like I said, it's a balls and strikes type deal, and there's always going to be one side of opinion versus the other. There's not much treadway to win and on either side of this if you flip a coin. Jay, what do you think?
I don't know. You said how I'm going to react. I'm supposed to go R R R R. No, this is one where I 100% agree with you, and I think maybe on Sundays we see that of them being a little trigger happy with the caution because they know they missed one on Sunday. I don't know that. Again, I'm not in their production meetings or whatever, but there are weekends where it seems like that, and I think that maybe is part of it. But no, I'm with you. And Sharon, you kind of hit on it. I think that is the biggest perception. If they throw it and it wasn't necessarily needed or appears to be from the fans' perspective, they say, oh, you're trying to dictate the outcome. You're giving it so that Chase Elliott or whoever can get the. Again, I would take that criticism all day over why didn't you throw a caution before that car T-boned somebody or backed into the wall or whatever else possibly could happen. Because that's one of those where I think they need to make up their mind before the race starts, before the season starts. We're going to do this. Whatever the fans say, get on social media, they're going to say it ain't going to matter. We're going to do what we think is right, point blank, period, and we're going to be consistent about it. When it comes to that, and I'm with Chris. I've been at that track, a local track, where you get that. Oh, you're just trying to create a green, white checkered or what? No, that never even crossed my mind. Who is leading? Who was racing where, who needed to get caught up. It was a safety aspect, point blank, and I will stand on it, period. And I think that's what NASCAR needs to do. Sharon, you talked about it, of the change since Big Bill to now. Yeah, you need to listen to the fans and understand what they're looking for. But on something like this, they say, thank you very much, but this is why we're doing it, and we're going to stand on it. Chris has talked about it. Same with the tech procedure of that, possibly having that outside source that, hey, NASCAR really isn't even involved in it. Just to say, hey, this is the rule. It's being enforced, period, point blank. It has nothing to do with who it is, what sponsor it is, what car number it is, nothing. It's the rule, and it's going to be enforced, period.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you guys that they need to make those calls. And I think that, they do have to say it doesn't matter how much the fans complain, because they will complain no matter what, because they complain if they do call it, they complain if they don't call it. And so I think they have to put safety first. I do agree with you on that. But I understand why they're a little gun shy on it too, because they have gotten a lot of complaints from fans about everything. It doesn't matter what it is. So I do think that they need to think about the safety of the drivers. It was unfortunate for Brandon Jones. It ruined his day. It's like I talk about when a driver hits another driver and takes them out of the race. It's not right, especially if they continue on and that driver's day is gone and there's nothing they can do about it. So same thing here. You gotta make the call for the caution. I can understand how it happened. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think they need to make the call.
I think that we've seen in the past where we're having pit strategies and guys are coming to the pit and somebody loses a tire and it goes out, and NASCAR decides to hold the caution flag until everybody's completed their pit stops. And I'm going to tell you something that you can agree or disagree with. Anybody that's been to a racetrack knows that if it can happen, it will happen. And so NASCAR's flirting with the disaster by holding a caution flag in those scenarios to protect the green flag pit stops. And that's kind of set the precedent outside of that, or when do we do or when do we don't throw a caution flag. I think that that's crazy. Like, we should automatically, under certain situations, always throw a caution flag. And if that's hard for people to understand or deal with, then I'm sorry. I see all y'all
Well,
agree
that's
with
when
me tonight.
conspiracy theorists do come out and start talking about, oh, you're doing that because it was Chase Briscoe, the most popular driver.
I would much rather see a call than a no call, for sure.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, Sharon, I think you spoke for yourself. Chase Briscoe isn't NASCAR's most popular driver. Yeah. Sharon's trying to change the vote. Chris, you brought up a great point with the tire, because that's one of those and this is how I would answer those fans that are saying that. If everybody's on the same pit strategy, a tire is out in the infield, yeah, they're going to throw a caution, because if a car happens to spin, hits the tire, flips or whatever, they would, that's their reasoning. Okay. Then if that tire comes out during a cycle of green flag pit stops, that, like he said, that risk is still there. So if you believe in that, you've got to throw the caution. And their answer is, well, we want to let the race play out as it would, without outside, but that is part of it.
And that's feedback from the drivers.
Right. A caution coming out is always a chance and a risk. By holding it, you actually are now dictating, you're actually then changing what would be the natural outcome. The natural outcome would be there's a risk or whatever, a caution comes out. Whether you're a lap down or not shouldn't factor in. I understand NASCAR wants to give everybody the same opportunity, but that is racing, that's just part of it, especially at the NASCAR level, where when you choose to pit, they talk about that all the time. If you're what they say, short pitting and the first one to pit, that is a chance you are taking. And it is not on NASCAR to then protect you, again, by holding a caution. And I understand their thought process, because they want to see it play out on the track, racing, getting that side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel racing. But like I said, you're actually then the one dictating what isn't the natural outcome of it. And the last thing I want to say, like I said, I'm not trying to attack NASCAR by any means. Sharon, you said it. It is humans. I understand that. We have been accustomed to NASCAR being pretty much near perfect when it comes to things. That one just caught me off guard. And like I said, Jesse Love's interview where he said, hey, I understand where NASCAR might have missed it or not necessarily immediately throwing it because it couldn't be seen or they weren't sure, did help me calm down a little bit from that aspect. So, and I understand there too. I say, well, the TV broadcasters saw it. Well, okay, their whole job is to look around the track and see what's going on, versus race control has a lot more going on. And I do understand that side of it too. So I am appreciative of that. But yeah, this one to me was kind of surprise one that they didn't, I guess, if you will.
Yep. Yeah, you guys brought up some great points. I'm going to move on to the next topic, though, if that's okay with you guys.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about Connor Zilich's aggression. Jay, I think you brought that up, so I'm going to start with you.
And this is one again, and this is just my opinion from a perspective. I've been one that I've absolutely talked about his talent. We've seen that 5 wins in his rookie year, 3 in a row. The last couple of weeks, though, and it goes back to the Chicago Street Course, him and SVG, 2 good road course racers, a little bit of bumping and banging. I didn't see it as much there, but they were teammates. It seemed as of late here that, especially this past week, because he did have to go to the back, had a fast car coming through the field, rubbed fenders, which, again, I'm okay with, but it was also with some teammates. Again, and I don't necessarily want to use the word entitled, but just because you have the fast car, you're the hottest driver 3 wins in a row, doesn't mean you have that right to, and I don't want to say run over everybody, because, again, I wouldn't say he ran over anybody, but he certainly was aggressive. And this is one, and it goes back to Ross Chastain when he went through this in a couple years ago. How do I put this? Either you like the driver or not, and whether you think they're wrong in their aggression dictates whether you harp on it. For whatever reason, people weren't big fans of Ross Chastain or Carson Hocevar right now. I know we've talked about him. And so when they're aggressive, it's a bad thing. And Chris, I think you're one that has said it. Kyle Larson, he's aggressive. He's made some bold moves. If it works, he's the greatest driver. If not, it's like, okay, a car got away from him, whatever. And it's okay. Why is it not okay when Ross Chastain does it or Joey Logano? And I think right now, Connor Zilisch, being that up-and-coming rising star that everybody is a fan of, everybody's overlooking his aggression. Versus, Carson Hocevar got within 6 inches of somebody and he's being aggressive. Well, wait a minute. I feel like whether you like the driver or not dictates whether or not their aggression is over the line. And I felt like maybe Connor was. And he did. I will say this, again, when he got out of the car, he apologized. He went and talked to Chastain, and people of media wanted to make something out of that. Ross said, hey, he came over, apologized. And Ross said, hey, I got no problem with it. I've been there. If I'd have been on the bottom and done what he did, people would be all over me. He said, I'm not. I know, it was unfortunately Justin Allgaier, third one up the line, that got really shuffled out. But yeah, Connor owned it. And I will give him that. He owned it. And he said, again, it was kind of a Kyle Larson move. Drove in a little too deep. The car got away from him, slid up a little bit, hit Chastain. Chastain got bumped up, hit Allgaier, who had nothing to do with anything, just cruising along on the high side and got stuffed. But it happens. But I think we need to look at that of where is it too aggressive and is it really over aggressive, whether it's your favorite driver or not.
Okay, Chris, your thoughts.
I'm all for aggression. I love it. It gives us talking points. He's a kid. He's got 5 wins. He's probably got a swollen head right about now. He's 18 years old. He's on track to possibly be the next Jeff Gordon of the sport. Don't peel him back. That's the first thing these guys in the Cup Series want to do when somebody comes treading in on their on their real estate. They want to start peeling the guy back, and he's going to have to calm down from this. He's going to have to calm down from that. Look, Connor, just go out there and do what you do. Hopefully you can fight, and make sure you hire a bodyguard if you need to. You got to learn. You got to learn, and being aggressive. You're not gonna in a competition where you can't pass up in the Cup Series. You're gonna have to figure out some way to get around these guys. I've never raised any cane about what Carson Hocevar has done. I've never raised any cane about Ross Chastain and what he's done. I want character. I want real. I want guys who are willing to wreck their mama to win. And that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting with Ross Chastain. That's what I'm getting with Carson Hocevar, who hasn't won yet. I'm getting that aggression, and I love it. That's what I want to see. Does it create controversy? Do people get mad? Do they want to fight about it? You darn right they do. But that's cool too. So there's nothing wrong with sitting down for a boxing match on Sunday afternoon and getting a race out of it. I promise you.
I don't want NASCAR to be the WWE.
I don't think it's gonna be. These guys are too small. If we had Ricky Rudds of the world in NASCAR racing these
Yeah.
days, I think it would be a lot different. But that's where we are. These boys don't.
But
They
it
let
has
their crew
evolved.
chiefs- They let their gas man do their fighting for them. You know, they let their jack man do their fighting for them. So
Yeah.
let these guys ruffle some feathers. Connor, shouldn't we be talking about it? Should we not? Is this not on cue with his maturity level? Right? I
Well,
mean,
we were talking about how mature he is
right. And
last
so
week.
this is where you live and learn, right? This is
Yeah.
why this is where you learn to physique it. For Kyle Busch is one of the most raw talents we've ever seen since Dale Earnhardt. People forget Dale Earnhardt wrecked a bunch of race cars and then went out
Mhm.
in '79 and won the championship. So, his sophomore year, we saw Kyle Busch wreck a lot of race cars at Hendrick. That's why he wound up over at Joe
Joe Gibbs.
Gibbs. You know, we also saw another guy like Joey Logano who didn't have the confidence because everybody around him said, "Oh, he's got to do this and he's got to do that to be a Cup driver." And the moment that he was let go from Joe Gibbs, he became the three-time champion. You know, so it takes maturity. It takes the mistakes to get to the top, and he's going to ruffle some feathers on the way there. I'm going to be here to talk about it.
Well, I didn't see the Xfinity Series race, so I can't tell you how aggressive he was. I do think that the fact that he took ownership of it tells me I don't think he did it intentionally. That would be something different if he was being aggressive intentionally to take out somebody. I don't get the impression that that was the case. But I do think that there are some drivers that when they're driving, if a driver looks at them the wrong way, they're going to retaliate in some way. So, and that's an over exaggeration, obviously, but you guys get the point that I'm making. There are some drivers out there that will retaliate as soon as they feel that somebody stepped on their toes. So, I don't think Connor Zilisch is that guy. I do think that it's kind of like we were talking about Kyle Larson last week, being the best racer that people claim he's the best racer in the world. So if that's the case, then why is he hitting all these guys and that sort of thing? That's the question I had last week. And Jay said, you know, he's taking those chances that nobody else will take. And I get that. But at the same time, you've got to learn how to fine tune that. And I guess that's where Connor Zilisch is. He's learning how to fine tune that and get better at his craft. He did take ownership of it. He did make apologies for it. And it sounds like apology was accepted and understood. But I'm going to remember one comment that you made, Jay, and that is that Ross Chastain remembers, you know, what he went through coming into the Cup Series and his growing pains. So that'll come up again in another hot topic that we have on our list. So I think I don't think it matters to me. What matters to me is the first time it's an accident, second time it's coincidence, third time it's a habit. If it gets to be a habit of you're constantly apologizing for yourself because you're making those mistakes on the track, I do think that's a problem. So follow up, Jay?
Yeah, no, I'm with Chris. I certainly am in favor of an aggression driver. I was not a Dale Earnhardt lover, but I also wasn't a hater. They say you either loved him or you hated him. I actually, was kind of in the middle. Again, I don't understand how the Intimidator, being as greatly loved as he was, these fans that want to complain about Ross Chastain yet claim to be Dale Earnhardt fans. That's what made Dale Earnhardt's legacy, but yet you can't let Chastain have it. And that's where I have the issue I'm with Chris. I've always supported Ross Chastain.
Me too.
Again, are there times where you get a little too aggressive? Yeah, of that, I get that. My biggest thing is if you drive beyond the limits of the car, and I don't know if I want to use a name here, but we have a local driver, the high roller, Chris, you know who I'm talking about, that gets that kind of, gets that kind of reputation. I was with some people here at the local track in Columbus, and they're like, darn that driver, he caused a wreck again. I'm like, dude, he's been in the pits for 3 laps. He's not even on the track. He did not cause that caution. But that's the kind of reputation he had built. All right. Now, I say, if the dirt track has character, okay, and it means there's a little bit of a bump. Yeah, I get the bumps there, and so you either got to go around it or whatever. He would go through it, and then if he ran into somebody else because of it, we'd say, well, the bump in the track. Okay, but everybody else was driving around it, through it, without running into anybody. And that's where I'm like, dude, you got to back up a little bit. You can't just use that as an excuse. But like I said, he will drive the wheels off it. Literally, I've seen him do it a couple of times So yeah, you got to appreciate that, because then that is, if he then gets to the front and wins, fans love it. Be like, okay, you're loving what got him there, but yet when it's another aspect of it, you're against them. And that's where I struggle. Like I said, I just Sharon, you were using the comparison of on Sirius XM, they were saying today, if somebody's at home and they stub their toe on the bedpost, they're blaming Carson Hocevar. That's the boat he's in right now. Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny. But that's where I just don't understand why. If you compare the aggressiveness of the two drivers, I think Connor Zilisch has the same aggression as Carson Hocevar. One gets disliked, I'll use that word, and one gets worshipped. I mean, I don't understand that. But no, I'm all for it.
Is one apologizes, the other one
and that
is like, I'm not going to change my driving.
I mean, take a boxer, I'll go out and punch you in the face and then say, I'm sorry. I mean, that's all right. You did it again though.
Yeah.
That don't just wipe it away, but there is some to that, of that, most certainly. And you're right. You talked about some of the drivers, Joey Logano, the maturity he's shown. He's still aggressive when he's got a fast car and can be. But, and that goes back to then the situation with Austin Dillon of you can't just throw caution to the wind and let the car go into a corner, with no hopes of making it. It's got to be controlled at the same point. And that goes back to Sharon. You talk about the bump and run versus the dump and run. I'm not in favor of running over anybody, but giving them a nudge and moving them out of the way and getting by them, I'm okay with that.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with Jay. We have fenders in NASCAR and we use them. And you can either be a non-aggressive driver, you can be an aggressive driver. Don't peel back my aggressive driver because he's willing to make certain moves that others wouldn't take. I think that's the ability of the driver. And if it causes problems, I hope you got a big fuel man or a big jack guy that can keep them off of you there in the pits. So
we can protect.
What about you, Sharon?
Well, I think I've already said my say.
Awesome.
We're
talking about rivalries. I mean, we're talking about rivalries.
Right. That's what people talk about is exactly right.
We need that. We don't necessarily have a specific bad guy anymore. Denny Hamlin, I feel like, is playing the villain, but do we have a true villain? So at least we have aggressive drivers, and every week it's somebody different. This week, Carson Hocevar peed off Zane Smith, right? And I think Zane tried to right rear him, and
Yeah.
and that didn't work out too well for him. So
Nope.
I don't know. It's I love it. Like let's let these guys go out here and rub fenders and get each other a little upset, and we'll see some action out on the racetrack.
Well, it is what we talk about. When those things happen, that's what we're talking about. So I see the validity there, but I don't know. I'm in favor of the bump and run. I'm not in favor of the dump and run. I will put it that way. I don't like it when other drivers are that. To me, it's a disrespect for your fellow
Well,
driver.
so
to
a dump and
and
run is I didn't back out of the gas at all going through the corner, and I literally picked your rear end up and pushed you out of the way. And a bump and run is using air and a
Right.
little bit of maybe a little bit. So
I'm okay
there's a
with
big
that.
difference there.
Yes.
And you know, I think with the aggression that drivers have these days, especially in the Cup Series where there's no longer kind of a gentleman's agreement, that just keeps people fuming. And the problem is these drivers sometimes don't know the difference between whether or not they got dumped and run or bumped and run. And so, you know, we see a lot of this after the race talk and stuff. Crew chief, I think, from Zane Smith went to Carson Hocevar. Perfect example. If you stub your toe in the bedroom, it's Carson Hocevar's fault. I love that. That's what it seems to be these days. But yeah, I love it. Brings rivalry and gives us something to talk about.
Okay. Let's see. Is it whose turn is it? I think it's your turn, Chris, for the next hot topic.
All right. I think I had said something. I really wanted to get up into the
Playoffs.
yeah, but let's talk about real quick. I think probably one to note right now that we really need to talk about is the Kaden Honeycutt leaving Neice Motorsports. I think there's some
Yes.
rumors going on that are let's try to back things up real quick. Of course, Kaden Honeycutt was, I guess, released from Neice Motorsports. Zilisch in the 45 at Watkins Glen. Then they're going to put Bayley Currey in. The reason I think that Neice made the announcement was that Kaden Honeycutt had signed with another OEM for the 2026 season.
Yep.
You know, I think one of the first things around the house today was, well, we've got Dodge's potential, we've got Rams potential first driver. I think we're forgetting, and we haven't mentioned it here, about Stuart Friesen getting hurt real bad in a truck, and that's a playoff truck, and I believe Kaden Honeycutt is actually going for maybe in a bid for a playoff as well, right? Is that correct? So that, you know, obviously, what I believe is happening here is that Honeycutt probably asked for an early release to go drive the 52 Halmar truck. You know, Stewart's an older guy. He's not one of these young guys like that you typically see in the truck series. He kind of got a late start. But I thought that Stewart has done a great job at kind of bonding the dirt world with the NASCAR racing world, and he's done it on his own effort. The wreck that he had was absolutely terrifying. You never want to see a driver in that situation. I'm not much for speculative stuff when it comes to wrecks and stuff, but I almost, it's almost fitting that second car come in and hit him because the car was on fire, and we might be having a completely different show after that. As a matter of fact, I think we were on the air when it happened, and I just, you know, I hadn't last week, and I didn't bring it to the table because it was kind of up in the air of what was really going on. But
so what is our hot topic that you're wanting to discuss?
The Kaden Honeycutt leaving.
Okay.
Right. So this is all tied into that.
Oh,
because
okay.
Kaden Honeycutt's going to go drive the 52 truck.
Hold up, Chris.
No, that's one of the rumors. There's other rumors out there.
Can
Yeah,
can I give you? Well, I listened to the interview they had with, and I don't know the name, president of Neice Motorsports. And again, you know that based on the situation, not all details are going to be given, but they were asked him for a timeline. So this is his answer as far as the timeline. They offered Kaden Honeycutt the contract for next year. He declined it because he was up front, said he had a planned deal or whatever with another manufacturer. That manufacturer is supposedly Toyota and Tricon Garage.
Yes, because Tricon just announced today that Currey would not be back in the truck next year.
Right.
Oh, I hadn't seen that. Okay, I hadn't seen that
today too.
So
okay,
that leaves the door open for him to take over the 52 Hallmark machine, because you cannot have a cup driver in that car during playoff time. So it has to be a truck driver. So basically, he got his release from there so that he can go finish the season in the 52 truck. You know, it hasn't come out yet.
Okay, hold up, though. Kaden, you're saying Kaden asked for his release. He did not. Neice Motorsports and the manufacturer, he put it on the manufacturer, because Chevy has said, okay, if he's going to a Toyota next year, we're no longer going to support him this year and give him any kind of details.
That's a breach of contract.
Okay, I'm done.
I mean, it's a breach of contract.
I am telling you what the president of Neice. All right.
I have never heard of, in a million years of being a NASCAR fan, a OEM releasing a driver because he's going to go drive for another manufacturer.
It happens all the time. Yes, it has happened.
Name me one. Name me one time. It has
happened because.
Name one driver, please.
Why do you think Roush? Here's what happens. They don't want to
loaned a driver to Chevrolet. Roush loaned a driver to Chevrolet. Chris Buescher was still under contract when he drove for JTG Doherty Racing. And that's how
Let me know when you're ready to listen.
I'm just saying, name one time where a manufacturer, OEM, fired a driver going into the playoffs or going into midseason because he signed a deal with another manufacturer. That makes no sense. What it is you're going off of a press release that a company who just lost their driver mid-season is upset, so they're going to make it like they fired him or something, or they did this and that. But in reality, all this come up because he's going to be taking over another truck, and since he's already signed with Toyota, look, if that's the way they do business there, that's
almost getting a mute button because nobody else can get a word in. Okay,
I'm just waiting on you to say which one got fired.
Well, we can't say anything because you're talking.
I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. Jay, I'm going to ask you, did you get that off of a press release?
That was the interview on Sirius XM with Dave Moody with the president of Neice Motorsports. I took him at his word of what he said. Chris is saying he's a liar, so I don't know what more to say.
What happens is that manufacturers are very protective, and they're making plans now for next year. They don't want to share any of those plans with somebody who's going to go to another OEM. I've heard this before.
They raised Ilmar Motors.
Tyler Reddick is your name, Chris. Tyler Reddick is your name. Richard Childress let him go a year out of his contract because he had signed with Toyota. There's your name.
No, they bought it out, dude. It wasn't.
And I was wrong. You did. Congratulations. You did make me mad. You did make me mad. Congratulations.
Mid-season? I don't think so. Nah. Come on. There's an open seat over there at 52. He has a contract with Toyota. He asked for his release.
He did not ask for his release.
Mad.
He even said he did not ask. He did not ask for his release. I've heard
Maybe it all just worked out that way.
Chris.
Hey, I'm saying.
Okay, we can tell you exactly what it is. You're not going to believe it, so we're wasting our energy. So you just tell everybody what you think, because none of the rest of what we have to say means anything.
You'll see him in the 52 truck.
I'm not
I'll put
disputing
$2
that.
on it. Huh?
That you can put more money on that. Nobody is disputing that, Chris.
Right.
But you're saying he asked for his release because that's what he's going to do.
He did not
That is
ask
not true.
All I'm
Exactly.
saying is they didn't really fire him because he's going to another OEM. That's what I'm saying. That's what
Well,
I'm saying.
Then call up the president of Neice Motorsports and
Yeah.
tell him he's a liar. Tell him he lied on
Are you
national
saying
radio.
the president is a liar?
Hey, I'm saying there's two sides to every story. Mama always said there's two sides to every story.
But
Well,
I
there's
don't
actually
think
three
this is
sides to every story because it's
every
your
time I
side.
try to say something, you interrupt me. Okay, can I say something?
Most certainly.
I know you're not going to believe it, but other people need to know that this happens. It's not the first time that it's happened. Jay gave you an example. Tyler Reddick was released from his contract with RCR because he was going from Chevy to Toyota. They don't want to share their secrets. And I've heard it before. I've heard other drivers talk about that. It's not something that's just being pulled out of the sky. The president said that. He said, and I believe him because I've heard it before, that these teams, if they have a driver that's going to another OEM, they don't want them to be a part of that team any longer because they don't want them having privileged information that they take over to another manufacturer. Kaden Honeycutt was being upfront. And when they were talking about his next contract, he told him, I've got something going with another organization and another manufacturer. They said, okay, that's it. We're going to have to release you from your contract for that reason. He did not ask for the release. He was given the release because they did not want him part of the organization and leaking out secrets to another manufacturer. Mm-hmm. And I know that happens. I know it. So it's
Richard
not
Childress
something that's being fabricated. It's not something that's not realistic. It's not something that is just out of the blue somewhere. Okay, it happens. So to say that it is something that's out of the blue and that it's fabricated or whatever, I think is not fair to say. I think that I've seen it happen before. So that's what I think people are taking.
Who has been released mid-season because they went to a new OEM? I mean, we see people get fired all the time, but the excuse that's being used is ridiculous.
I will tell you, they are blocked out of meetings, so they're more or less a lame duck if they do stay, and they will tell you they're a lame duck and that they've been blocked out of those meetings for that reason. In this case, they're saying, we're not going to have you here as a lame duck. We're not going to block you out of the meetings. We're just going to take you out of the team. Okay. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't care that you don't believe it, but it's true. So
it's true because somebody said it, right?
The president of the company said it.
But what did Kaden have to say about it?
So wait. So it's not true because you said it's not?
No. I'm just saying don't take everything with a grain of salt.
But we're supposed to take what you're saying as true?
We're supposed to believe you.
As an owner of a race team, I can say whatever
I would rather take you as a grain of salt than the president of the organization.
I'm saying as the president of an organization, I can say whatever I want to.
Okay. Well, we don't have to believe it.
That's true.
How about that?
That's the way I took it. That's the way I take his press release.
Okay. And that's the way we're going to take your opinion, because in this particular case, because it is coming.
It's a coincidence.
From the organization.
Definitely a coincidence.
And I've seen it happen before.
Yeah. Did you guys, let's go back to what the subject was really about. Did you guys kind of place him being in the
I've heard
Hallmark
a
machine?
couple of different things.
Uh-huh.
I've
What
heard
was
Okay.
your
that he's going to
speculation that he was
Tricon
going to?
Garage in the
Where
Toyotas
did you
with
think Kaden
Tricon.
was going to go to, Sharon?
I just said it.
Where?
Tricon Garage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, later for next year. Yeah, I mean, on the same day, Corey Hyman is announced that he's not coming back there, but we can speculate that Corey Hyman's probably going
Corey
to go to
Heim
a
might be the one
full-time.
going over to Hallmark reason. Not while
Well,
he's going for a championship. Forget that.
Right. But Corey's probably going to go to the Xfinity Series next year, or possibly maybe even Cup Series. I mean, we don't know if
We don't know where Corey Heim's going.
he could definitely maybe be the loaner car for
He's
the third.
a 2311 driver. We know that.
Right.
So
Just mighty big coincidence, you know. We can all agree that it kind of worked out. It's probably going to work out pretty well for Kaden, being that he signed that deal with Toyota already.
The problem is he needs a ride for this weekend because man, I so hate what happened to Grant Infinger years back.
yes.
That's the biggest deal because for this weekend, I think it's Christopher Bell that's already signed to drive this weekend. Now, what you're saying, Chris, of does he end up in that ride to finish the year, being that he has now been released?
Maybe.
Stuart Friesen, Friesen Halmar Racing would be insane to not be on the phone and talking about it by all means. But like I said, Christopher Bell's already been announced for this weekend. Honeycutt needs a ride for this weekend. If he can get into that Halmar Friesen for the rest of this year and goes to, and again, Toyota has not been named as the manufacturer. It was just a different manufacturer other than Chevrolet for next year. And I say at that time, I had not heard about the Corey Heim announcement, so that must have come later in the day. But yeah, would that work out great for Halmar Friesen, the 52, the way the situation is? Absolutely. I think it's a win-win. Do I know anything as far as that being in the works? Do not. That is 100% speculation at this point. Does it make sense? Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, if I were with Halmar Friesen, yeah, I'd be on the phone and telling him, hey, don't talk to anybody else. We'll even help you find that ride for this weekend since we got Bell. But I'm not in that position.
It's an evolving situation because Honeycutt thought he was going to finish out his year and be in the playoffs with Neice Motorsports. He found out today that he's not. So I think it's an evolving situation. But I've seen some of the media members say the deal is with Tricon Garage for next year. So what he does between now and then is up in the air. And maybe it is Halmar Friesen. Maybe. That's one of the things that's on the table for him. But they have other drivers that are already scheduled to be in that truck. They've already been working on different drivers to be in that truck. I heard Bayley Currey. Where was Bayley Currey going to be?
That's who's taking over Neice Motorsports for the rest of the year after this weekend.
That's right. Bayley Currey, they're going to have a driver in that car for this race, a different driver, but Bayley Currey is going to finish out the year in the number 45 with Neice Motorsports.
So fans understand there's a reason for that, because after this weekend you have the final race of the regular season and then the playoffs, and you can't have a driver earning points in another series in those races. And that goes for Xfinity as well as the truck series. So that's why any cup drivers that they might get, I know Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, Connor Zilisch are all running trucks this weekend. That's the last weekend of eligibility for cup series drivers because of that rule.
So maybe I should add some context to the reason why I don't necessarily believe everything owners and presidents say. This was off of Dream Team Scene Vault from behind the scenes or whatever. It was about Darrell Waltrip's dream team at Hendrick Motorsports. Well, he did a little piece about Junior Johnson because there was certain things from the split between DW and Junior Johnson that come out into public that Darrell never really confronted Junior about. And it was basically Darrell Waltrip said that Junior Johnson lied about it. And he used this as a reference. He said, you just don't really understand how Junior was back in the day. He said he would have a good friend, maybe named Bob, and Bob comes around the shop and Bob talks. Then one day I come to the shop and I say, hey, Junior, where's Bob been? I haven't seen Bob in a while. And Junior, with his old stern voice, said, well, Bob's dead. And Darrell laughs and says, that's just how Junior was. Bob wasn't dead. Bob did something to piss Junior off. And so Bob's dead to Junior, but in reality, Bob's still out there. So that's
an
just
entirely different scenario.
No, it is the way that it is, and it's the way that people will make up a narrative so that it benefits them in certain situations. And Tyler Reddick was let go by Chevrolet because he embarrassed them by showing up in a press conference with Denny Hamlin a year and a half before his contract was even out. And Richard claimed in the beginning weeks, once that news come out that Tyler Reddick had signed with Toyota, that he was going to field him a third car. He was going to put Tyler Reddick in another car. The deal that kind of helped Tyler Reddick go over to 2311 was the fact that they had Kyle Busch, who was interested in coming and driving for Richard Childress. Had that deal not went through, you would have never seen Tyler Reddick let go, or at least in my opinion of things, he wouldn't have been let go. But there again, you guys are right. There have been people who've signed contracts a year and a half in advance. He wasn't the first time Tyler Reddick. He wasn't the first one to do it. I could take you back to Jamie McMurray and I believe it was Kurt Busch.
And those guys get shut out of those meetings, though. They do. They don't go.
Right. Those guys as well signed a contract a year and a half. And I believe Kevin Harvick announced his departure pretty early from Richard Childress Racing to Stuart Haas Racing. So there are instances, but very rarely do you actually see an OEM get involved with somebody that's just jumping from one ship to the other and losing their job. Most of the time, it's a cumulative of certain situations that happen. And all in all, somebody has to buy out the contract because it's not a breach of contract to sign another contract with another team after your contract expires. So somebody had to have bought the contract out, or at least Neice Motorsports is going to pay Kaden Honeycutt to go drive for somebody else. One of those two things has happened.
And what is your evidence of that?
That because he had a contract with Neice Motorsports. They can't fire him because he signed another contract somewhere else and just not pay him.
Well, wouldn't they consider that breach of contract?
That he signed a contract with another manufacturer? No, because my contract is up until this point.
But what I'm saying is that they're saying that they can release him because he breached the contract.
I'm sure they released him. They're still going to pay him like any other sport. Like any other sport, when you release somebody, you still pay them. When a university fires a coach, they still pay him. He's still getting paid through Neice Motorsports more than likely. If what you say is true, they just take him off there and send him somewhere else.
I don't know. I don't know how the that you're going based off what you think from other sports and whatnot. That may be something in their contract. I don't know that. All I can tell you is what the president of Neice Motorsports said. And you talk about the OEM not being a factor in these decisions. I think there have been a lot. It just generally doesn't go to them. The finger pointed at them. It is the team that takes the brunt. Oh, we decided to. Go back to, say, Joey Logano. Is it possible that Toyota said, we want Christopher Bell, I think at that time was who was coming in, and not Joey Logano, that the manufacturers are in play. They may not be the one to come out and say, we made the decision that we told Joe Gibbs to get rid of Joey Logano so we can bring in Christopher Bell, and I might not have those names right. I'm trying to remember, but talking about
Daniel
Corey.
Suarez.
There, thank you. You're right. It was Daniel Suarez at the time. Right now, Corey Heim is a Toyota driver, and we have seen this in the past. Bell being one of them. Eric Jones was at the time that the manufacturer said, "Hey, we're going to find a spot for them, whatever it takes, because we want them to stay a Toyota manufactured driver." There's other ones they've lost. Go back to Jeff Gordon. He was a Ford driver, and somehow Chevrolet and Hendrick Motorsports snookered him. Like I said, we just don't see the finger.
Chevrolet at the 92 raced a Chevrolet at the 92 Atlanta race while he was driving a Bill Davis Ford. So you're right.
Yeah.
And we seen Casey Kane put on loan to Toyota one time, Jay. Remember that?
Yep. And there again, but the support they get is where that comes into play. And you talk about that of team meetings at who was the other one? He went to the dark side. Matt Kenseth, when he left Roush Fenway Racing and went to Toyota, to Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. That was, I thought, rather entertaining at the time. But going back to that, like I said, I think manufacturers do have a lot more influence and say in some of these decisions. It's just we don't know that. Like I said, it's not the president of Toyota, and I can't think of who that is now because it's not white anymore, but that they come out and say, "Hey, we made this decision." It's listed as the team. The team made this decision. I guarantee you that the manufacturers are behind the scenes making some calls and nudging some people and be like, "Hey, make this official."
Right. Yeah, I could see that as well. I don't understand why we got so upset over that. I mean, it's just the fact of any boss will tell you one thing, and then you find out from anybody that's really ever worked in the real world, shows as whether you've gotten fired or you quit. It's always one side of the story versus the other. So it's business is what it really is. And when you go to your boss and say, "Hey, I'm leaving," and you leave, and he says, "Well, I was going to fire him anyway. He wasn't worth the darn." I mean, that's just one of those deals where an organization is going to protect their assets. And if Kaden Honeycutt had decided to have an early exit, or whether or not a manufacturer called and said, "Hey, can we go ahead and pull the trigger here?" Or if it was just the fact of when Kaden got brought in the office and he said he was going to another manufacturer, "Well, by gosh, we're not going to have that around here." That don't sound like a good business move there. And to publicly say that is even more crazy to think, because if I'm a development driver, I'm going to make sure that I probably don't go to Neice Motorsports just in case I'm basically let go from my job because I took a better opportunity somewhere. I mean, is Neice Motorsports considered a developmental type organization for Chevrolet, or is Tricon? Which one of those organizations is a developmental driver organization? Neice or Tricon?
Both. I don't know.
Question.
And I was trying. This is why the temperatures went up. You ask a question and then somebody tries to answer it and you won't let them. I don't know that either one, there's a contract that says you are a developmental team for us for the Cup Series. Is there that line? Yes. It was KBM, the pipeline, Toyota pipeline, they used to call it. I know it was referenced. And Tricon kind of took that over as KBM went to Toyota or to Chevrolet Inspire Motorsports. Again, Inspire Motorsports through Chevrolet and into Hendrick Motorsports. There's a lot of talk that maybe it is, that there's a stronger partnership there than what we know. I don't know. They are in that manufacturer brand, I will say that, of whether it's a developmental team partner with, I can't say. We look at the ARCA Menard series, I guess is where I'd more so look at that, of some of the Toyota teams, whether they're Joe Gibbs Racing's developmental team. Again, do they work with him as a manufacturer? Yeah. Do they have some drivers that have gone from them to the top level? Yeah. whether that's an agreed upon, hey, any driver we get first crack at. I don't know. I don't. But going back to that I am with you and Larry McReynolds was talking about that. And again, he didn't want that possibility of Halmar freezing certainly exists due to the circumstances of, and you mentioned it, horrendous wreck for Stuart Friesen. I know he's recovering and got a long road ahead of him. Been on my prayer list. But that opportunity is certainly there, and it fits within what we're supposing the new manufacturer of Toyota for next year, that it would all fall in place. But I don't know that any of that has been predetermined or in the works officially yet. All right.
Are we ready for a new topic?
Yeah, we can. We're also at the top of the hour.
Yeah. Chris?
I'm good.
You want a new topic?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I got one, and I heard
good.
more details about this today. The NASCAR Playoff Committee, potential changes. I've heard rumor again. I hear the fans, and they want to go back to the old way and this and that. But the Playoff Committee also involves media members, and this also that goes back into Fox and Penske too. I'm going to just have to come out with it now. But it being a playoff committee, as far as that of what to look at, potential changes. I'm going to get my thoughts together here and let one of y'all go first on that.
Okay, for the NASCAR committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read some articles on it today, and initially they went in thinking that they were going to do some wholesale changes, and I think it's kind of evolved to a point where they're divided, and now they're thinking maybe not wholesale changes, and that it's definitely, they're not in a position to make changes for the 26th season. It's probably going to be the 27th season before they make any changes. I'm hoping they don't make wholesale changes. I'm not on the bandwagon of the current system is total trash. I think that there's some good points to the current system, and I hope that they do kind of continue their conversation. One thought that was mentioned is the idea of having, instead of a one race playoff for the championship among the four drivers, maybe they make it a 3-race or 4-race championship run with the final 4 drivers. So that's one thing that was on the table. What they end up with at the end is going to be probably evolved to something entirely different by the time they get there. But there's division among the committee members as well. And I think they need to tread lightly. I hope that they don't go, we've got to go back to the point system where it's just the points for the entire season. There's a reason why they came up with a playoff system, and it's because the fans weren't happy with the point system for the total year. Not all fans, obviously. Some fans liked it. They still put up points for the whole year, just to make sure that we don't forget that it once was like that. But I do think that what NASCAR evolved to with a playoff program, I think, is the right direction. And I hope that they keep a playoff program. And I'm okay if they want to modify that playoff program. But, we'll have to see how it evolves. But I don't think we can expect changes necessarily for the 26th season. It sounds to me like they're kind of stalled, and that it's going to be probably the 27th season. What have you heard, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard much on that other than, of course, the Mark Martin feeling like he's carrying more weight on the old-fashioned style point system than the new. I'm with you, Sharon. I do not want to go back to the dinosaur days. I how I know that the chase system works is most of the time in the latter half of the playoffs, the guys who are in contention for the championship are somewhere like 1, 2, 4, and 5. You know what I mean? Like there's
Mhm.
probably one car in the mix that's not a playoff car, but these cars find themselves very close together in the closing parts of the playoff race. And so that lets you know that we've got the right cars for the right moment. Racing is momentum. When you start eliminating factors and you start eliminating competition based off of a playoff factor, then all strategies get turned into, well, you've got your best guys on the 22 car, you've got your best guys on the 5 car, and that you pile your best dudes on each of these cars that are late into the playoffs. I don't foresee NASCAR making the decision to go back to a full 36 race championship. What I do see, like you said, is maybe a tweak with how the playoff rounds are and where we can actually start maybe a championship round with 4 teams instead of it just being a 1 race deal, maybe a three race deal or something to that effect. Um, I would definitely see that. There's too much money tied into the championship race night. Like they know the reason why they want a specific track, or that the Phoenix situation. They wanted it to move from there. They wanted it to go somewhere else. Is because that racetrack is the deciding factor of the championship race, and that means that there's a whole lot of extra advertisement, a whole lot of extra promotion, all going into that final race of the season, and that's a monetary situation that I don't think NASCAR wants to back themselves out of, because NBC obviously wants a championship race, and so you can't have dictate a 3 race into the year deal where you have to have that final spot where you've got some people challenging, because that's what makes it a championship final event, right? So whether or not it's 3 races or 1 race, the fact of it is NASCAR's not going to get rid of the opportunity to create a certain racetrack where the championship is to be decided at, and that's kind of my deal with that, Jay.
Well, first off, just the aspect of the committee. I am all about taking input. And I heard a couple from the radio media side say that maybe the media shouldn't be ones that are in this committee. I'm not saying they shouldn't be in it, but again, you got to remember they have an agenda. Drivers that are involved in it, they have an agenda. NASCAR has to be able to take all that and make a final decision for the sport. And that's where I have concern. And I say this is, I've been alluding to it all night. I've been watching, if you're not a wrestling fan, I don't know how to describe it, but back in the day, WCW and WWE, 2 competing entities. Turner Broadcast took WCW, put it on their TV, and that's how the Monday Night Wars began. But I've been watching of what killed that program, because the television company started trying to run the sport, and it is a sport, and it's an entertainment sport, I get it, but it changed it and it ruined it because the broadcast television side wanted to do things different than what the sport did. So that's where I have concern. Talk about another hot topic, Fox Sport buying into Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You got to be careful with that. No different than if you take just driver input. Well, drivers are going to get what they figure favors them. So all in all, I like the playoffs. I know when it first came with the 10 race, and I can't think of what the chase for the cup back when it first started, I was a little hesitant, but the 36 yearly points is all I knew. I would not want to go back. Again, I didn't understand it and was in favor of it at the time, but it's worked. They've evolved it. I am in favor of them looking at evolving it. I am one that from the beginning, when they said 1 race to decide it amongst 4 drivers, I get that. But to me, that, and I know other sports you have that, but again, other sports you don't have your 4 championship contenders and then 32 others out there just to do what they want. And honestly, we haven't seen that be a factor. We have seen one or two situations, though, where a loose wheel or something of a broken part, cost a driver to not have a shot in that one race, and that hurts. So I am in favor of a 3-race deal for the final four, the 4 contenders, the final 4 championship contenders, just because, like I said, you have a broken part on one day, yeah, you don't win the race, but then that's your whole championship. And I know, like Dave Moody, I like to call and talk to him. He laughs at me when I say it, but theoretically, mathematically, you could win 35 races and finish second in one race and not win the championship. Because you could win the first 35 races, go into that championship 4 battle, and finish second and not win the championship. Is that ever going to happen? No. But with the system the way it is, that is a possibility, and that's why I think they should have it a little bit more flexible than it comes down to that all-in-one. Now, in the past, we've seen it. In that all-in-one race, all 4 drivers are normally competitive. It's been, with a few exceptions, you got to win that race in order to win the championship, or be second. I know Chastain won the race and Blaney won the championship. So he did beat all his competitors, but I would be in favor of, like I said, of the 3-race, 2 or 3 race round for the championship itself is the only tweak at this point. The one argument I hear people say of, and I hate to use him, but SVG, well, he shouldn't be in it because he can only win on a road course. Well, okay, who should be in then? Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and I am not bagging on them, but they haven't won on any type of track. I mean, so what's your justification that they should be in over somebody that can win on, albeit a specialty, a road course? That's why I'm in favor of it. And again, I was so hoping Brad Keselowski was another one to win, and I know it would have Chris mentioned it, would have knocked one of his own drivers out who have throughout the year been more consistent than he has, but he's the one running good right now, so if he wins, I'm all for it. If you get that wild card that wins Daytona, and again, I'm not ragging on anybody, but Harrison Burton and the Wood Brothers, were they a championship contending team? No. Are they going to be out in the first round? Yeah, and they were. Okay. But again, what did somebody below the cut line or not make it in on points do better than that? They didn't. So what's the difference? They were going to be out in the first round. Harrison Burton was out in the first round. Push. Your championship drivers are going to elevate themselves and get through, into the final round. And I will say this is why I'm in favor of the stage breaks and the playoff points, because that does still give some credence to, hey, you've run real good all year. You ran good all but the last lap and wrecked out. We're going to give you some points, and they'll build up and carry through. Do I think sometimes teams lean on that then? Hey, we got playoff points. We can ride this out. Yeah. It bit Denny Hamlin, though. He banked on that, and it bit him, so you got to be careful with it, too. So, like I said, I'm okay with the evolution of it, but, yeah, I don't want to see it go back, as Chris said, the dinosaur age.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same category. I don't want to see it go back. I want it to evolve. I like that word. And I think we expected it to evolve to a different place over time. And I'm not sure what the 3-race format would look like for the championship, but I find that it is kind of an intriguing idea. I don't think we want to do the playoff bracket like we did with the in-season challenge.
No.
I don't think that would work very well. But I do like that there's a committee to sit and talk about it. And I kind of agree that, NASCAR needs to take the input and then make the final decision based on the input that they're getting. I don't think it should be the committee that makes the decision. The committee's purpose is to give the feedback and let NASCAR make the decision.
An advisory board. There you go.
An advisory board, yes. I think NASCAR one thing that happens in an organization, you have executives and you have CEOs because they're looking at the bigger picture. Each of the individuals on that committee are looking at their part of that picture. And so NASCAR needs to take all of that input and then globally make that decision based on the input from everybody. Can they give recommendations and everybody look at it and maybe vote on the best recommendation? Maybe. But I do think that it's important to get feedback from all the different, including the fans. You know, I don't think the fans should be left out of this. And I think fans were involved when they did the last revision to some degree. They've got a fan council that they ask questions and get feedback from. I think after every race. Maybe it's not that often anymore. I don't know, but I was part of the fan council for a while. So I do think that NASCAR does try to get input from everybody. And I think that's a good thing. So I think there is a purpose and a positive purpose to having a committee that's looking at this and talking about it. But I think you got to be careful. I hope we don't get to where we are with the lawsuit situation where you've got somebody who doesn't want to budge.
We could have gone the whole show without saying that word.
Well, I know, but I mean, I hope we don't get to that point where people are so fixed on it has to be their way that they aren't open to hearing other ideas and looking for the compromise because I think that's going to be important. But I think we are ready for an evolution. And so I'm curious to see how this does evolve over time, because right now it sounds like they're kind of stalled because of the varying points of view. So we'll see if they can work through that stall and kind of get to a point that they're moving forward with something. Chris?
Yeah, do you guys think that maybe we just use the old point system? The points as in how many points we grant? Do you think that could make a significant change? Or are you guys, you know, if we were to make wholesale changes, I'm not sure what those wholesale changes could be using a playoff system, but whether or not the old way that we scored points, maybe readapt that in some connotation.
In what way would you readapt it?
Well, you know, where I think a win used to pay what 162 points or something like that. Instead
win?
of a the old point system wasn't a
total you could earn was like 185. It was like 180 and 5 points if you led a lap. Well, 190, I think. 180 to win, 5 for leading a lap, and 5 if you led the most laps, or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you were getting at, Chris, but
exactly. Yeah, maybe that's what fans are claiming that they want to see instead of the single point or for a maximum point. Honestly, I thought bringing in the stage wins and all really helped out that side of it, because it really wasn't enough accumulation of points in the beginning. But now with the stage racing and being able to add those points to something like Brad Keselowski got 2 stage wins. When you look at his points day versus others, it's, you know, he had a dramatic difference between most of the people because of his stage wins. So I think all those are beneficial, and I like the way that we tally the points now. But, you know, maybe that's something that they look into later on. Maybe there was a certain advantage to how they scored those points at times that made it more interesting. I don't really know. As a longtime, you know, race car fan, I just don't ever want to see us go back to that style point system. I mean, you know, it's good for short track racing and other forms, but when you're talking about, you know, the best racing series in the world, you definitely want to be in competition with other style sports. You know, I think a playoff system works for NASCAR as it does for any other major sporting event. I do want to say that a guy by the name of the Daily Downfords, did speculate that Kaden Honeycutt would be in the Young Motorsports ride
Yeah, I've heard that one
this
too.
weekend.
Yeah.
So that would actually
Sweet.
bridge him to the 52 truck starting at the playoffs. So he will have a ride. He's 6th in points right now. I think that's pretty important.
Yep.
So he will have a ride to bridge him to wherever he may be going in 2 races. That's factual. That's not, I mean, that's
No, I know. I've heard it too. I said, yeah.
If I had the money, I would definitely, man. Like I said, my heart broke for Grant Enfinger back, and he didn't get the waiver because he missed that one race because he couldn't find a ride and sponsorship. So I would absolutely hate to see that come up again. We're talking about, and that's where certain, I want to say, traditionalist fans, or that somebody that's not deeply involved in NASCAR, when you talk about the stage points, I think that was one of the greatest innovations or evolutions, whatever word you want to use. Because there was nothing worse than seeing a driver leading or running second, third for the whole day, wreck with 5 laps to go and get 1, 2 points or whatever. That they said, hey, we know you were up front most of the day, majority of the day. To get some type of reward for that. So I think that was absolutely huge when it came to that. Now, does that make it tougher? Sharon and I talked about this on the preview show. Well, so-and-so's only got to gain 20 points. Yeah, but gaining 20 points, is really tough because you can make up these points. And then you're talking about 20 points position on the track. The one thing, and I don't know if this is exactly where you were going, Chris, of modifying the points of, and I go back to, I understand NASCAR with the whole, whatever it was, again, 170, 180 for a win and breaking it down. The one thing I liked at that point that they didn't carry over, and their thought process was simplify it so the casual fan can understand. One position on the track is 1 point. I get that. However, in the old system, it was 5 points position between the top 10, 4 points from 11th through 20th, 3 points between 21st on back. Because there is a difference. If you pass somebody between 30th and 20th, again, nothing against whoever, but those teams aren't exactly hard to pass. You pass somebody in the top 5, you've worked a little bit harder to make that pass because that's where your top drivers are running. So I could see where they would go to something like that of it's 1 point per position, 30th on back, 2 points per position, 20th on back, and make it where you get more points when you make a pass or a better finish in the top spots. That, like I said, that was the one aspect I didn't like that they carried over. And again, I understand they were trying to make it simpler for the fans, but if the fan wants to understand, they can. To me, it wasn't that complex, but that's me. I understand they were trying to accommodate the fans and, hey, let's make it simple. It's 1 point per position. A 5-year-old can understand that. 1 position, 1 point. Got it. But is that true then, like I said, of fair? Yeah. But if I pass from 3rd to 2nd, I worked a lot harder than the guy that passed from 30th to 29th.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with it. Do you want to go to the IndyCar thing then, Jay?
Well, and here's the thing, and by having a partner like that, Fox being in support of Penske Entertainment, it says to include IndyCar and Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I am all for involvement. And like I said, maybe my mind's tainted right now because of watching this other program, but you got to be careful with that of, like I said, you have a television broadcast company being involved then in a racing entity or a sport entity. You still got to have, and I know it's only a third, so Penske still has controlling interest of override authority, to be careful, take the input, but not necessarily I don't want to say it, don't let them turn it into a reality TV, because that's what's, broadcast television, that's what's selling right now. Don't let them turn it into a game show, or, you know what I mean? That's just, it's a risk of that. And again, I highly doubt Fox is necessarily looking to do that. But like I said, it did happen with Turner, Turner in the wrestling. And that's where Chris of now, this has been 20 years, because this was back in 1999, almost 30 years. This is only, the truth is coming out now. At the time you didn't know it, but yeah, there was a lot of politicking and backstage things and whatnot. I just don't want to see that happen, is the only concern I have there. As far as them being involved and working together, no, I'm all for it. Again, money is what makes this sports go. And you see that with even Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing. They need partners. When Mars left of M&M's company, that hurt Joe Gibbs Racing. When Interstate Batteries cut back, that hurt. They're struggling. Whether you like Denny Hamlin or not, I was thrilled to see Progressive come in with any driver, just because that is keeping the sport alive. So I appreciate that. Like I said, I just have a little twinge of concern of, then the controlling influence. And since Sharon brought it up, I'll reference it. If you get a basketball player that comes in and tries to change NASCAR and how they run their operations.
Oh,
sorry, I couldn't resist.
Okay. Chris.
Penske sat around and heard about NASCAR's potential sale to Xfinity or Disney earlier, right? Weren't these rumors going
That's
on for the
true.
last couple of years about NASCAR? So Penske pulled the trigger. Isn't there some kind of connection between Flow Racing and Lucas Oil? I believe there is. This is the sign of the times, getting these networks and major companies involved and kind of pulling some of the strain off. Look, it's only so many times you can go and get better than $8 billion, right? When you're sitting down negotiating the next agreement, if you are in some form or way owned by a parent company of a streaming network or a company such as Xfinity or Disney or even Fox, that Fox is going to do, your value is going to be there. You know where you're going to be. You're not going to see IndyCar on NBC ever again because Fox owns it, right? So that's a plus. Like, that's continued growth. Roger Penske can guarantee himself that unless Fox drops the ball and tries to devalue IndyCar racing, I don't see them trying to do that. Then he's put them in a really good spot in the future for continued broadcast. When you look at the deal that they made with Fox, you're almost like, wow, like, why didn't NASCAR have that deal? It was a pretty lucky, obviously NASCAR is more valued than IndyCar. I believe it is, but it's just one of those deals where I think Roger sat back and he watched with NASCAR flirting with these other options, and he said, "Wait a minute, I have a series too. I can pull the trigger on that as well." So who knows? Maybe he thought of it himself. I don't know. I have crazy, wild opinions that make people mad sometimes. So I don't know. I think that more than likely this is a great benefit for IndyCar in the future. They know that they'll have a home for people, for an audience to watch. What do you guys? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that they're, when I initially saw it, I kind of was where Jay is boy, this could be kind of tricky bringing them in, because they might want to start dictating how things are done. And so that could be kind of a little bit of a conflict of interest, if you will, because from a television perspective, they're going to look at it as more of entertainment than as a sport, I think. I could be wrong about that, but just looking at it from the surface, that's kind of what my thinking is. So we'll kind of see how it evolves. There's certainly some advantages to it too. And Chris, I think you outlined some of those advantages to having it. It'll be interesting to see how this continues to evolve from a more global perspective. If other organizations or sports have that kind of an agreement with their, bring in ownership of a sports broadcasting company at that level, I think it would be kind of tricky too. I don't know. I think there's parts of it that feel like a slippery slope to me. And then other parts of it that I can see some of the positives to it. But we'll see how it evolves and how that continues. Yeah, there is an agreement. There is some, I don't know if it's sponsorship or involvement of Lucas Oil with Flow Racing. They have their series on there and everything else. But that's how people get to watch those races. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to watch those races. So there's a clear benefit there. So I'm not sure what to think of it yet. I kind of have mixed emotions about it at this point, is I think the best way to put it. I'm kind of more anxious to see how it actually evolves. Roger Penske is a smart guy. So, there's something that he sees there that is a benefit. And having the IndyCar series have a home, I think, is really important to him because for so long, a lot of fans didn't know where to go to find IndyCar. So having that home base with Fox, I think, is a crucial part of that. So we'll see how it goes. But Jay, do you have any follow-up?
Yeah, I do. And it's ironic, and I really don't want to use this M word here, but right now, you talked about the Xfinity and CW. There are benefits, absolutely. You know where they're at. They have a home. They know that. And right now, the fan review of it is good. What happens when it goes bad? And I think about this, just in general, not anybody specific. I can't wait for Fox to be done and NBC takes over. Okay, what happened with NBC? We bought it. We got this half of the season. Oh, now we're going to farm it out to USA and NBC Sports app. Well, now fans aren't happy with that. They were all thrilled about it, but now they're not happy with it. And that's still happening because I know some of the races are on USA. Even Fox, they go to FS1, FS2, whatever. So there are some negative, especially again, of if it no longer becomes a priority. And I'm not a big IndyCar watcher, so I can't speak to it. I'm not one that has been anti-Fox covering NASCAR. Do they do a better job of covering IndyCar than NASCAR? Because I don't hear the fan lashback of, well, Fox doesn't cover IndyCar well, doesn't show this or does commercials or whatever else. I don't know. And again, maybe I don't hear it because I don't follow IndyCar, so I don't hear any of their fans, I guess. I don't know. But I just I find that rather confusing that, to me, it's still covering a racing series. But yeah, Chris, you said you watch these other series, so maybe you can give more input on that.
Yeah, so I'm doing my homework right now. Liberty Media is a perfect example of a very large company, similar to Xfinity, similar to the Murdoch, Fox Network. Liberty Media, just a few things that they own. That's right from the top. Formula One, right? They own Formula One. They also own Sirius XM Radio. They also own Live Nation Entertainment. Do you guys know what Live Nation Entertainment is?
Nope.
So they are
That's like
basically
musical entertainment.
Yes, they're promoters for musical, like Dave Matthews Band and other. Those also MotoGP, World Superbikes, and 30% of Meyer Shank Racing. Just to throw that one in
Wow.
there. So
Isn't that interesting?
talk about a diverse portfolio. I think this is going right into what the Murdoch family does. And if you guys have never watched Succession, it's on HBO. It's well worth watching. It's basically a
I've
show
heard.
about the Murdoch family, and Brian Cox is amazing, and it's been one of our most favorite shows that we've binge watched. And I'm glad I got to share it with you guys tonight. So that's the area. That's where sports is going. They have to have these networks, some kind of a media company, some type of entertainment company to help keep them alive and help them survive and thrive in the upcoming years.
Okay. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I just have mixed emotions about the whole thing. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and that goes back to, again, if you recall, and Sharon's going to laugh, I'm still paying for both my Amazon Prime accounts. Yeah, with that I understand, the need for it, as well as the direction the world is going. But that goes back to, again, fans talking bad about the network broadcast right now. Well, eventually then you are going to, maybe most people are, I might be in the minority, and I understand that. I know I'm not alone, but certainly probably in the minority as far as the streaming device and liking it and wanting it. So I don't know. Like you said, there's definitely benefits. The other one that popped into my head, though, of talking about then the creative control, if you will, that term, when Disney bought Star Wars. Yeah, I don't like the direction they've gone with that franchise now. So exactly, that's where that concern comes in of an entertainment company taking something over and dictating the direction it goes. So I just hope that isn't the case. Now, on the other aspect, what we've seen with some of the things that different entities have done of Race Housewives or whatever, is it something I watch? No, but if there is a desire for it and this media platforms can provide it and it engages new fans and other fans, I'm all for it. I'm still not going to watch it, but it does give that outlet for those that do. So again, I would fully support that as far as the company and the program. Again, does that mean I'm going to watch it? No, I'm not. Sharon, we talked about a couple. It just wasn't my thing. Going back to during COVID, the iRacing deal. It didn't suit me. I just chose to do other things, but I would fully support it because there was fan engagement with it, and the drivers and whatnot. So yeah, I was all for it, but yeah, I didn't watch it. I watched a total of 5 minutes of it over the however many weeks that they had it. It just wasn't my thing.
Okay. Have we talked that one through?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Chris, did you have anything more?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I know we had a lot on the list this week. Brandon Jones. A fuel mileage strategy race, good or bad? We never did talk about Chastain and Hocevar either. Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, I did a little bit. I know as far as Chastain and Hocevar, because I said that Chastain said he had no problem, and Hocevar.
Yeah, we kind of.
Oh, I take that back. That was with Zilisch.
Yeah.
That honestly, going back to that Carson Hocevar, I didn't see. I guess, and I didn't go back and try and find it before I deleted my recording. What the deal was between Chastain and Zane Smith. I heard there was some discussion and whatnot. But yeah, Hocevar and Chastain, again, maybe Chastain saying, hey, I can tell you how to weather this storm.
Okay, I did bookmark, let's see, Hocevar spins Zane Smith from Hocevar is on board. Hocevar said over his radio that he was checking up for the 19 and 41 in front of him, and it chattered his rear tires. But if you watch the video, there's nothing that indicates that. But that's a different situation, right?
Yeah, I don't know what Chastain and Hocevar were into then. Again, I watch for the racing, not the drama necessarily, but I know it comes with it.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if I saved anything on it. Chris?
Yeah, I think I kind of covered what I had to say about the Zane Smith and Hocevar earlier.
What about Chastain and Hocevar?
Yeah, Chastain and Hocevar. I don't see any real. I mean, was there what? I don't even know what that was. I'm more familiar with the Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott incident than I am Carson and Ross. And I think somebody said that Ross already said he was cool with her. Maybe that was with Zilisch or something. Was
that was with Zilisch? That's what I said. That was with Zilisch.
Well, that would be the kettle calling the pot black, or the pot calling the kettle black, whatever. Yeah, between Chastain and Hocevar. But it is interesting, the meltdown that's kind of going on over at Hendrick Motorsports with Chase Elliott and Larson. This is not the first dust up these two have had, and I've been on record to say it's tough on Chase being the most popular race car driver in the Cup Series and being maybe the third best driver in his own organization. I think a lot of people backlash on that because, obviously Chase Elliott has a whole lot of fans. But it is interesting to see these two guys kind of go at it here. Papa Hendrick may have to come in and settle the roosters down.
Milk and cookies. Milk and cookies.
Milk and cookie time.
Yeah, send some milk and cookies over their way. So sing kumbaya. Look, it's covered in the rivalries that we talked about. We like it. It's needed. I just didn't see much news out of it. I don't really know. Did I miss something with the Chastain and Hocevar? Can y'all specifically
Well, I
say?
heard some things on Sirius XM about it today, and they were talking about it. And I know one commentator's comments was that he felt like Chastain had should have no complaint of Carson Hocevar because he's been through the same learning curve. Right. He went through this himself. So when you made the comment that maybe he's going over there and saying, hey, I know that this goes on, but I heard he was pretty upset with Carson Hocevar and made some comments to him. So I don't think it was I understand what you're going through kind of conversation. I think the commentator that made that comment said it should have been that kind of conversation because it seems like Chastain's forgetting that he was that driver a year or so ago. So for him to go over and make that comment, a lot of people found that kind of ironic that Chastain would have something to say to Carson Hocevar after going through all that he went through with a lot of drivers when he was coming up. So I'm not sure exactly what happened either. I thought maybe I'd save something on it, but it was actually the Zane Smith incident with Hocevar. And on that, I can tell you the video, if you watch the video, what Carson Hocevar says and what you see on the in-car camera from his car does not confirm what he says. So I thought that was rather interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think that Zane Smith, the last couple of weeks, has just been on the bad end of bad situations on the track. And it's cost him quite a bit.
One thing I'll throw in there, and I'm with Chris, honestly, and I guess I didn't hear any of that on Sirius while I was listening today, but I think sometimes, Chris said it, of the rivalries and controversy gives the media something to talk about. I think there's times where the media pushes it more than it really is. Talk about the Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott deal. Was Kyle Larson upset and get beeped out on his radio during the race at the time of the incident? Yes, he did. But we all know Kyle Larson. Honestly, tomorrow he'll probably be like, yeah, I got no problem, because that moment is over, But the media wants to, teammates at Hendrick Motorsports can't get along. Well, no, he was mad at the situation at the excuse me. Connor Zilisch, we were talking about how much he had matured. They played his in-car radio as he was having to come from the back due to the penalty, or I don't remember why he ended up in the back. But yeah, apparently the 18-year-old's got a mouth on him. He got beeped quite a bit too. So we're praising him. Oh, look at the maturity of this driver. Again, they all have their moments, and I don't blame them. But Kyle Larson is one of those, like I said, of okay, rant, done, and it is done, period. Like I said, does he hold anything against Bubba Wallace from 2 years ago when he shoved him and he wanted no part of it? No, he doesn't. He moves on to the next race when it comes to that. So, yeah, is there a problem at Hendrick Motorsports? Probably not from Kyle Larson's side, I will say that. I think it's ironic, and I know, Chris, you were just reiterating what a lot of people have been saying. I've heard it everywhere. Chase Elliott now the third best. He's second in points. He has a championship. Kyle Larson has a championship. Byron has none. Who ranked him as third? I mean, where is that coming from? By what standard?
Have you not seen Chase Elliott's record over the last 4 seasons? He's been absolutely terrible. He's been on like long winless streaks and stuff, while William Byron's been out winning Daytona 500s and Kyle Larson winning the most races of the year. I mean, there again, my opinion is not associated with all that Fan for Racing stands for or whatever.
Stop taking it so personally. I have heard this.
You said, where did I come up with that he was the third best racer in his organization?
I've heard this from
that, man.
I've heard this from fans all year. Chase Elliott's having a horrible year. He's third in points. We want Alan Gustafson fired.
This year.
We want Alan Gustafson. Fans were screaming for Alan Gustafson to be fired. Chase Elliott was third in points. Okay, so if that's where your ranking of third comes from, okay, I get it. Is that a bad year? There are 32 teams that would love to have that bad a year. There again, when that bar gets set, if the New England Patriots don't go 17-0 or 17-1, they had a bad year. No, they were 16-2. But that's the bar that's been set. Does Kyle Larson, or has Kyle Larson get, honestly, aside from winning the Daytona 500, and all the teams or all the broadcasters talking about this, where's William Byron been all year? He won the Daytona 500 and that's it. He was still leading the points, so he was obviously running good. He just wasn't necessarily getting the wins or, top fives. It was consistent top tens and not making all that noise or being up front checkers or wreckers type deal. But he held the points up until from week 2 or 3 up until whatever race we're in where Chase Elliott took it from him last week, But again, he only had the one win, and you got Kyle Larson winning 3, Hamlin winning 3, Bell winning 3, SVG winning 3. So yeah, stats only mean one thing if you use them in this aspect. Is William Byron the best driver? Well, he's number 1 in the points. You get a lot of argument about that, but you could say he's number 1 because he's number 1 in the points.
Well, I can see where they come up with third, though, because if you look at it, Kyle Larson has 3 wins. William Byron now has 2 wins, and that just happened at Iowa Speedway. Chase Elliott has 1 win. Alex Bowman doesn't have any wins, so that puts him third in that. So I can see where they're coming up with that thinking.
Yeah, no, I know. When I asked that and I said he was third in points, I was like, well, there's your three. I get it.
Yeah. Well, he's actually second in points. If you look at the points,
Yeah, well, and he just lost the number one. Byron got the number one spot back.
Right. And so he is 18 points out of the first place. So Kyle Larson is third, 45 points back. Who's the other driver? Bowman is ninth, and he's 156 points back. So it depends on what you're looking at and how you're evaluating people. So yeah,
that's all I was getting at.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I can kind of see where they're coming at from the other side too. So it's a matter of perspective. Somebody once said you can make stats make your point on just about anything.
Exactly. That was my point. It all depends on how you use those stats.
Right. Because stats can be used to make two different versions of the same point, or two different perspectives of any side of things. So, you look at it, you're going to put out there the stats that prove your point.
Since Chase Elliott broke his leg, he's not been the same competitive driver that we've seen in the early part of his career. And since that time, William Byron has really stepped up to blossom into the championship caliber driver that we expected him to be. And Kyle Larson has continuously won since he's been over at Hendrick Motorsports. So, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like Alex Bowman's probably a better driver than all of them, but for some reason, he doesn't get the same equipment.
Exactly. I mean, that's of that. I certainly think he ranks up there. One thing I know people want to point to, the kind of like with Kyle Larson, the Indy deal with Chase Elliott, the breaking of his leg. The one thing you truly do have to look at is the next gen car. And Chase Elliott will be one to admit that. Yeah, especially, again, he was the road course ace. You couldn't beat him. I mean, he was the guy, and they've showed the stats on the road. And again, it's top fives and top tens. It's just he went from winning to 5th to 10th. So again, is that bad? No, it's just not what he was. And yeah, that has to do with the next gen car. I'm not saying the breaking of his leg in that situation didn't hinder him, but I don't think it correlates to that.
Yeah, it's probably a combination of both of those things.
And same with Kyle Larson. I know everybody wants to point and say it was about the failure at Indianapolis 500. Statistically, from that point on, yeah, it does appear so. Whether that has anything to do with it, who knows? I think if I'm not mistaken, I heard he quit drinking milk too. I don't know if that relates to it or not, but it might be a true statistic.
Here's another thing that I think a lot of people look at when they say that Chase Elliott is third. And that's this little stat. Most laps led. If you look at that, you got William Byron, 910, Kyle Larson, 873. You got a couple drivers in between, and then Chase Elliott is 5th at 385. So
yeah, see, again, I think that just ties back into the next gen car. He certainly hasn't been, and I wouldn't dispute that he has not been as dominant as he was in the Gen 6 car then, I guess, or Gen 7, whatever it was. I don't even remember what number we're on, but the previous generation. And that happens. I mean, Kyle Busch, we've had Kevin Harvick, he admitted, he said, I can't do it. I'm struggling with it.
Yeah, it's not an easy car to learn. And like I say, they asked for a more difficult car. They got it. And I don't think that the Premier Series should be an easy series. I think it should be a harder series to be successful at. So
I think we hammer Chase Elliott a lot. There's a lot of correlation between his career and Dale Jr.'s career. They're both sons of very popular drivers. They both had early success. They both had late struggles in their career. And Dale Jr. was basically the third driver, the third wheel at Hendrick when he was there, ahead of Jeff, behind Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. There were moments of greatness that Dale Jr. was able to show later on in his stint at Hendrick Motorsports, and kind of put himself up there above Jeff Gordon, I think, because of where Jeff Gordon was at the end of his career, and the simple rise of Elliott. So we may see over the next year and a half a better Elliott, one that rises to the occasion, up to maybe second within the team. But when you can say that Chase Elliott's still the fifth best driver in Cup competition, even though he's third best at Hendrick, really says the powerhouse that Hendrick has, right? Because the only other two names that I saw in between the first and second was Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
I mean, both of those guys get their credit where credit's due. Sharon, you said earlier today that Ryan Blaney's passed more cars than anybody all season long. He's got that figured out. It hasn't shown in the win column so much as the other drivers have, but based off of what you showed there, he's the fourth best driver right now in Cup Series. And so,
as far as laps led.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's a pretty good meter to read if you ask me, because you gotta lead laps to win races.
Well, and when you looked at it, and let me see if I can pull it up, driver standings. Up until him getting his win, he was the top driver without a win, and I don't remember what the number. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 DNFs, and he was still 6 in points. No wins, 6, 7 DNFs, but was still 6 in points. I mean, that tells you where he's running and finishing. Kind of like William Byron. How's he leading with only 1 win? You got guys winning 3 and 4 races because he's just there, The one thing with Chase Elliott,
having feast or famine, though.
Right. Yeah. With Chase Elliott, I think what we are seeing right now, especially in the last, I'll say, month to month and a half, is him getting his hands around this next gen car and figuring it out. So that's a good sign. We'll see if it continues.
Right.
Okay.
I'm about done. I got to go to bed.
Okay, well, we'll have to save the playoff picture for next week. Who's in, who's out. There's only 2 races left, and by next week there'll be 2 races left. So,
it'll be a real clear picture, win Daytona or not.
Yeah, it's going to come down to that. The penultimate race is Richmond, so they're at Watkins Glen this race or this weekend. Then it'll be Richmond and then Daytona. So it's coming to a close real quick. But we'll save that for next week. So just a preview. How about that?
That works for me.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Do watch for more. We did put out the reviews earlier today. And next week, this week, Jay and I will be out with the previews for Watkins Glen. And on Friday, Taz and I are doing the fantasy report. So we'll do our fantasy picks for the races at Watkins Glen, and then, of course, we're back next Monday night with the reviews and back here at 10 o'clock Eastern time for the Hot Topic Sound Off with our Fan for Racing crew.
So is it a 5-minute show on Friday, Sharon?
No.
Are you sure? Because I mean, how long does it take to say SVG 2-3 times? I mean,
well, for this particular race, although some people are saying this is a little more technical, I don't think that's going to slow down SVG. But
I know Chris, brought up it was Chris Buescher won there last year, but he did go toe to toe, and that was when SVG was just getting his feet wet in Cup Series. I think he's got it figured out now. So we'll see though.
What to do? So thank you everybody for tuning in. Go ahead, Chris.
That would put him second seed in the championship.
Exactly. If he wins, it'll put him second in the championship seeding.
If he wins, okay, yeah.
Yeah, if SVG wins, he'll be second below Denny Hamlin in the seating for the playoffs when the playoffs begin. And he will have racked up some playoff points as well. 4 wins times 5, that's 20.
Yep. And that's there again. That goes back to the points. I'm okay with that because I still think then through the playoffs, your other drivers are going to overcome that. I mean, it'll keep him competitive, but and nothing against him. We know we've talked about it. He's getting better on the oval tracks, but at this point, do I think that's going to carry him? No. But he's got every right to be in the playoffs and do what he can. But cream rises to the top.
Yeah, it's a system that rewards winning. So that's an example of it. Okay, so thank you everybody for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed it. And we'll look forward to talking to everybody next Monday night as well. Take care.
All right, have a good week.
And we didn't go around the horn. Let's go around the horn and you guys can talk about what you're doing. Chris?
Yeah, you can catch me Flag of Caution on TikTok, Twitter, Yellow Caution Flag, Chris Creighton on Facebook. We're off this weekend. We got an early start next week. 4 days. Listen to me. 4 days of the Southern Street Stock Nationals, 13th annual. We'll practice on Wednesday and then race Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm looking forward to that at the House of Hook. And if you quit your job at Hardee's and then you call them the next day and say, I want my job back, they're probably going to tell you you're fired. Y'all have a great week.
I've never worked at Hardee's, but okay. You can follow me, Michael Hoosman on Facebook, Mopar MJ8 on Twitter and Instagram. We are running this weekend so that we can be off the following weekend for the Street Stock Nationals. We got the Mississippi Crate Late Model Series double features this weekend. Again, hopefully 2 weeks or better of good weather. Because of the one that got washed out a couple weeks ago. So they're doing the makeup one and then a second one. Yeah, part of Tyler Hudson posted it. Gauntlet Weekend, I think is what they're calling it, with where they're running Friday and then double at Jackson and then Saturday. So I'll be at your Capital City Raceway, hopefully, and then maybe wander down at least for the racing portion of the Street Stock Nationals. I'm too old. I'm almost 50. I'm too old to be down there for four days straight and going to the hotel at 7 a.m. to go get an hour or two of sleep.
Oh boy, you guys are busy guys. I'll be here watching the races over the weekend, starting with Friday night's races, Saturday and Sunday, because we got races all 3 days. And I'm Fan for Racing site on X and Fan for Racing blog and radio on Facebook, as well as our website, fanforracing.com. I do have the recaps up. I know I've been a little lax on it the last week or so with the trip down to Texas. And then this weekend I went out to up to Chicago. My daughter's got a new place and I went up and visited with the girls and looking forward to settling in and watching the races this weekend. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody on Monday or later on this week, actually.
Yep, later in the week.
Yep. So, again, take care, everybody.
Have a good week.
Good night.